Pledge of Allegiance. Captain Hunky, how about leading us? If we'll all remain standing for a moment of silence, and if you would say a special prayer tonight, I think a lot of us know Stony Russian, and he's not doing very well. And I really don't know how much longer Stoney's going to make it, but say a special prayer for him and his family tonight in a moment of silence. I would appreciate it. Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to tell you about some upcoming events. This Thursday, August the 10th, we have Hits After 6. If you've not been to Hits After 6, you're missing it. We're going to have a good band out there this week, the Entertainers. If anybody knows who they are, they're good. And it's a good time, so come out. And the same night, here at Town Hall at 6 o'clock, we have Coffee with the Mayor. And it's kind of a town hall type thing where you can come in and ask questions. You'd love to see you. Love to see some new faces. We've had some big crowds for that. And I hear that the mayor is making some meatloaf sliders, Abby, for Martin. So if that don't lure you in, nothing's going to get you here. So anyway, I'll tell you that. And then also we have Battle It Out, Chestnut Park, 6 p.m. From 6 to 9. This live action event features Nerf battles, laser tag, archery tag, and Ninja Nation. So that will be August the 8th. So keep those on your calendar if you would. That brings us to agenda deletions. Anybody have any additions or deletions?
I'd like to make a couple of changes here to the agenda. A motion to delete items number 4A and 4C.
Thank you, Dennis. Can I get anybody else? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Mr. Gay, all in favor? Unanimous.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, that brings us to presentations now. The one we marked out, I just wanted to let everybody know, owner Rob Bryan with Slim Chicken is coming when? He's going next meeting. So he couldn't make it, and if you've been there, it's a good place to go. That brings us to a donation request for Turning Point. Let's see. Krista Dixon, you coming up to speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay, come on up.
All right. Good evening. Thank you for having me. As you know, Turning Point is the only victim services agency in Union County. Last year, we served 1,372 domestic violence victims, 588 child victims. In Indian Trail, we served 368 residents. Today, we're requesting funding for professional trauma-focused counseling for our child survivors of sexual assault, physical abuse, and those who have been witnesses to violence in their home, as a part of our comprehensive services provided through the Treehouse Children's Advocacy Center. 1 year of counseling cost Turning Point $34,470. We offer counseling in Spanish and English, as all of our counselors are bilingual. We also pay transportation costs to and from counseling just to help with that barrier. Adverse childhood experiences like victim abuse are linked to chronic health problems, mental illness, and substance abuse. They can also negatively impact education, job opportunities, and earning potential. So intervention can prevent this, along with depression and heart disease, involvement in sex trafficking, sexually transmitted disease, and teen pregnancies. So this intervention and counseling and follow-up with victims of violence is just crucial to their overall well-being, but their potential in the future. So we just wanted to say thank you for listening and considering our sponsorship request.
Does anybody have any questions for Kristen? Mr. McIntyre?
Oh, thank you very much for coming.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the cost is about $34,000.
Yes,
Is that total or that's per family?
That is total for the children that
Okay.
we serve. So we get a lot of discounted rates for considering the situation.
Thank you.
And they're on staff with us as well. So we outsource and we have in-staff counseling as well.
All right. Thank you.
Very good. Well, Ms. Dixon, what we'll do is we'll take this into consideration, and then
Okay.
we'll make a decision by the next council meeting. We'll let you know. Yeah, I think it probably looked pretty good for you. Yes, sir.
What is the donation you're asking for?
I believe it was 2,500.
Was that what we did last time, Jim? Do you remember or no? Don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we did.
I don't remember whether it was 1,000 or 2,500, but
Either way.
but we'll look, we'll figure that out and
Yeah.
come back. We'll get back with you. But thank you for making the presentation.
Thank you for having me. We appreciate it.
Anytime. You come back anytime.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to say, Robin Barron with the Back to School Bash, who does so much, she had a donation request tonight for Back to School Bash, but they had raised enough money, all the money that they needed, and she called me up and said, listen, we don't need it. Somebody has come through for it, which is a nice, really nice thing, so she wanted to make sure that somebody else could get the money, because Back to School Bash is really a special thing. Which brings us next to a request for surplus funds for Moore Park. Andy Freher?
Prayer, that's correct.
Yes, sir. Come on up.
All right, thank you, sir. Mayor Cohn, Town Manager McLaurin, members of the council, and Director of Public Works McLem. My name is Andy Freyer. I'm a resident of the Moores Park since 2012, my wife and I. There's 29 homes in our neighborhood, most of which have well water. Several neighbors have had their water tested and come up with the results for arsenic in the range of 22 to 107 micrograms per liter. The EPA has a recommendation of 10 micrograms per liter, so you can see that's well in excess of that number. Arsenic is colorless, tasteless, and odorless, and if taken enough quantity, it can cause skin conditions, circulatory issues, as well as cancer of the skin, bladder, kidneys, and lungs, amongst other organs. In 2008, North Carolina passed a regulation that said that all new wells had to be tested. However, it's reasonable to assume that for existing homes that buyers would have that same expectation from people. And so assuming that this contamination situation doesn't abate going forward, we're going to probably likely see more people testing for this. And as such, if we continue to see these issues in the wells, it's going to be hard to transfer homes. And I can tell you, since I've lived here, Indian Trail has done a marvelous job in doing the things we need to do to raise home prices. Correspondingly, the assessments that go with that and the tax revenues. So you can imagine that if that has a negative impact on that, how that's going to impact all of us, the homeowners and the city too. We've also had a series of power outages through the years that we've experienced. It can be from anything from trees falling on power lines to at traffic accidents, people damaging equipment and the power goes out, and that can last from anywhere from 2 hours to a couple days. And, most of us or some of us know that when hurricanes are bearing down, we're scrambling to try to fill bathtubs and every other container we have to try to fix that, because when the power goes out, the well goes out. And so that becomes problematic too for us. There's a bunch of different ways you can address these challenges. The first one would be just drill more wells, maybe drill deeper wells. But given the amount of homes that have tested positive for arsenic, we don't see this as a long-term solution. This could be not what we consider to be a viable option, which takes us to the next one, which is the possibility to go with bottled water. Now, EPA estimates that an average household use is about 300 gallons per day. About 70% of that is used indoors. So take 20% of that number, roughly. I went to Sam's Club the other day. I bought a case of water for $4, 40 bottles. And if you do the math, roughly what you come up with is about $46 if you just cover just the sink. So drinking water, cooking, things of that sort. If you decide to go for the whole house, it's about $230. Again, not a practical long-term solution. So the third method is filtration. And you can either go with point of use. Some of us has these right at the sink. So when you hear me say point of use, think at the sink. Typically, those are used for things like dishwater, drinking, things of that sort, right? And so you have typically two types of systems, reverse osmosis and adsorbent media using granular activated carbon. And you can buy one of these at a local home improvement store for your sink, right? It costs you about $100 to $200. I pay about $120 for the filters, and I replace them twice a year. But that's only the sink. Now, I don't know about everybody in the room, but for the folks that have kids or grandkids, if you've ever tried to rein in grandkids, they drink from every sink and every spot and pools and every other thing in the house. So typically, a point-of-use system would not be practical in that case. So you might consider going with a whole home system, right? But you can imagine now you're covering a bigger amount with increasing contaminants, possibility for clogging, things of that sort. That becomes very maintenance intensive for you over time. So again, this becomes a bit of a challenge, so much so that my neighbor, Pat, who's with me tonight, will be talking a little bit about his experience in that regard. So the least expensive and most practical solution then is to hook up to an existing water supply. In this case, it would be Union County Water. We believe that they have sufficient capacity to be able to support our subdivision. Additionally, which we know that water's available either in Brandon Oaks or in Colton Ridge, which are on both sides of us. So the water's there, it's just we would need to bring it in that regard. So the question is, would they be willing to extend the services from those areas? And of course, that's why we're here, to ask for that help, to help them get those services extended. Keep in mind that Union County would receive and recognize additional revenues from having us on board with them. So that's a positive too. Some of us have sewer with the county currently, which means that they use the well water as a proxy for sewer flow. So we have meters. So for some of us, it would just be simply just bringing the water in, hooking it up to the meter, and we would, that would simply potentially reduce installation costs. Another thing which I think is really important to all of us is safety. And in our neighborhood, there's no hydrants. And so the only sources of water are the stream that run parallel to Frontier Circle that intersects with Pioneer Lane. So if there's a fire in our neighborhood, we have two options: bring a tanker truck in or pump from the creek. Now, if we were to go forward with this project, and we hope you'll support us, we could have hydrants installed as part of that, significantly reducing the exposure we have from a safety issue, but additionally which insurance companies will extend discounts to homes depending on their proximity to fire departments and hydrants. So this is a benefit to the homeowners too, reduce costs. Also, just keeping in mind that I'm sure you read about it every day, but every day you pick up the paper, you're going to hear about new contaminants and new things coming out, right? Union County Water can address that on a macro basis much easier and much more cost efficiently than we can on an individual basis, trying to address each one of those contaminants as it comes out. We also know there's funding available through the Well Rehabilitation and Repair Program. We do have some folks in the neighborhood who are on limited incomes, maybe would qualify that. Maybe they're retired and on fixed income. But based on the 80% of the average median income that this requires, many of us would not qualify. And when we talked to our neighbor collectively, basically we decided, let's come as numbers, let's come in strength, because there is strength in numbers. And so that's why we're here. So in summary, from what I've described, and I know I went through this relatively quickly in the interest of time, we're asking the council to help support us by helping fund part of this effort through Union County Water to bring the lines into the neighborhood and the associated types of work that needs to be done. This would really help address the issues that I've covered, right? The health risks, the property transfer challenges we'd have, power outages, as well as potentially increased insurance costs that occur from, fire damage, things of that sort. So I think there's a lot of upside to doing this, and we would very much appreciate your support. Again, I especially want to thank Vicki Mackey, who is our fearless leader, who helped get us to this point. Thank you, Vicki, who drove this effort. To Mayor Cohn and the council and the administration, thank you very much for listening to us tonight. We really appreciate you hearing us out. I also, by the way, my background is in water after 30 years. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the folks from Union County Water for their efforts in getting us clean water, safe water every single day, and by taking care of and treating our wastewater and returning it safely to the environment. They work every day. Their best day is when nothing happens. Imagine that. So I'm very much appreciative to them. And so, again, thank you to everybody. This is what we're asking, is funding to support us in this effort. And if I could, I'd like to turn it over to Karen Smith. She wants to talk a little bit about her personal experience with regards to the excessive arsenic levels. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Frere. That was very good.
I cannot speak as well as Andy, so I had to write mine down. Good evening, Mayor Con, council members, Mr. McLaren and Mr. McLam. My name is Karen Yandel Smith, and I'm a lifelong resident of Union County. My husband Carlton and I raised 2 children in the house we still live in at 116 Frontier Circle. This was the first house built in Moores Park 40 years ago. When our house was built and the well was drilled, it met criteria that was in effect at that time. The well was drilled 400 feet deep to get 6 gallons of water per minute. We quickly became used to some limitations of having a well. No water when the power is out, no toilet or drinking water, and that was for 2 weeks following Hugo. Not owning any white clothing, it quickly becomes gray or ugly beige. No showering and washing clothes at the same time because there's not enough water pressure. And we never water our yard because we may need the water rather than the grass and the plants. However, we learned to live with these limitations as most people do with wells, especially those of us with low-producing ones. We've never been without water unless the power was out, but we have also been very cautious in using this resource. Last fall, after receiving a letter from Union County, we decided to have our well water tested to see if it still met safe criteria. We were shocked at the results. The arsenic level of .069 in our well water exceeded federal drinking water standards. In addition, the levels of iron, lead, and sodium also exceeded acceptable levels. In big red letters, we were told not to drink our well water or use it for cooking unless a water treatment filtration system was installed to remove the identified substances. Since receiving these results, we've purchased bottled water to drink and water by the gallon for cooking. We have considered a filtration or treatment system, but the corrosive properties of the water can affect these systems just as it affects our Keurig ice maker and hot water heater. We can continue to purchase bottled water, but that is very expensive and heavy. We could sell our property and move to a location without water contamination, but we would still have to remedy the existing problem of our well water before we could sell. However, we like where we live, have lived in our house for a long time, have wonderful neighbors, and we don't want to move. The real solution for us would be the ability to connect to the Union County water system. When we received the results of our water test, we also received a letter from Union County telling us that there was a program called the Short Water Line Extension Program to assist residents with paying for running water lines. We later received more information about an additional program called the Well Rehabilitation and Repair Program being offered that would help upgrade our well. We now understand that the Short Water Line Extension Program is no longer available, and our well doesn't need to be rehabilitated or upgraded. The well works fine and isn't the problem. The problem is the quality of the water being pumped into our house. As we speak, land has been cleared for a new huge neighborhood on the right side of Waxhaw Indian Trail Road as you travel toward the traffic circle at Stallings Road. I assume this new neighborhood will have county water. There are also fire hydrants along Waxhaw Indian Trail Road and Pioneer Lane that indicate to me there are water lines run to these locations. Our neighborhood, Moores Park, sits squarely between 2 large neighborhoods, Colton Ridge and Brandon Oaks, that both have county water. I'm told there is a water line installed that runs down Pioneer Lane to the entrance of Colton Ridge, and that there is already an available right-of-way between our neighborhood and either Brandon Oaks or Kennerly Drive. Now, whether or not all that is true, I don't know. I didn't go and investigate to see exactly where the water lines are running, but just kind of common sense tell me that that's kind of the way it is. County water is all around Moores Park. It's just not in Moores Park. Connecting to and paying for county water will be an additional monthly expense for my husband and me because there is no monetary cost to us right now for our present well water. We do have, I would like to make one note, our well water flows into the Union County sewer system, which we were able to connect to quite a few years ago. So we already have a meter in our front yard. As retirees, having access to county water will be a new expense for us. However, an even larger expense may be the unknown cost to our health associated with our existing well water. I am requesting that the town of Indian Trail help the residents of Moores Park obtain access to a source of clean, uncontaminated drinking water as other residents in Indian Trail enjoy. Thank you for the courtesy.
Could you say that again?
What was it? Thank you for the courtesy of listening to my comments this evening. Next, you'll hear from Pat Agnew.
Thank you, Karen.
My name is Pat Agnew. I'm a resident of Moores Park. We moved here in 2014 from Utah, and this was our first experience with a home that had a well. So we knew virtually nothing about the well itself at the time. Since then, we've learned a little. 2 years ago, our next door neighbor, Freddie Noren, came over to us and said that he had had his well water tested and had seen extremely high arsenic levels. So we immediately did the same and had our water tested, and it was at 70 odd parts per billion. So it was extremely high. It was interesting only in the context that when we signed up for the University of North Carolina study about well water, they came out, or we actually had our water tested again through them, and this time we were the winner in the neighborhood with the highest arsenic of well over 10 parts per billion, and so it's extremely high, 10 times higher than what is acceptable from an industry point of view. Just the two of us are in the house, but we have neighbors and we have grandchildren live nearby that are in the house constantly. And I say constantly, they're here very often. So when we realized the nature of the issue and what we were dealing with, we had two options presented to us. One was the under sink option, or it was a whole house option. Under sink option for me gave me no comfort at all because I knew full well that the grandkids were going to drink out of the spigots in the yard and everywhere else. So it was no help at all. So we went for the whole house process, and it was built by a company called Connecticut, good company, but we're limited to 500 gallons a day, and we often hit that limit. So it creates issues for us at that point in time because then we either shut the system down and recharge or we don't use water. And that creates a problem for us on an ongoing basis. And that's for a whole house. Freddie, our next door neighbor, went to under sink, and it's interesting because he's got two small children. And they have since built a house out in the mountains, and I rarely see them in Indian Trail. So we wanted to find a solution that would do everything for us and do the whole house. We spent almost $5,000 on the system, and they told us that it would be 5 to 7 years before we would have to spend any more money. 6 months in, we noticed that there were some issues, and they came back out and said we had completely used up one of the 2 cylinders they gave us, and it needed to be replaced. So obviously we had words with them, and they gave us that cylinder at no charge. They're coming back out, interestingly enough, Thursday to check it again, because, I still believe that it's because of the excessive amount of arsenic that we're going through the medium that much more quickly than they expected. And it's a problem. It's not going to go away. And we thought about, well, let's sell our house and move. Well, who would buy it at this point in time? All right, we've got a real problem. We put a Band-Aid on the problem, but we haven't solved the problem. And so we just wanted to make sure that you heard it from a person who's living with it. My wife and I, on a day-by-day basis, every morning I get up and go out into the shed and look and see how much water we got left. All right, and then we go from there. So it's an ongoing issue. There seems to be no easy solution. But anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Richard Sayer. He's going to come up and talk to you a moment.
Mr. Mayor and Council, we are the newest house in the neighborhood. We moved in, built our house in 2018 and had our well tested. And it came in at 22, the limit is 10, as the others have said. And so we're well beyond the limit as well. It was just my wife and I, but then our daughter and her family moved in while they sold their house, and they're looking for another place to live. So we have our two of our grandsons living with us as well. We use bottled water as well as a countertop pitcher filter from Zero Water, which if you need a Brita type of thing, because people are familiar with that, Zero Water is very good. But anyway, and I get nothing from advertising them, but that's how we keep our water safe for ourselves. And it is not good for adults or children, but especially if you have children. And there's at least 4 other houses in the neighborhood with young children. It's not just ours. And when we built the house, if we could have had city water, certainly we would have. But it's not available, so we do ask you for some assistance in getting that for us to help us all out, and we appreciate your time. Talk to you.
Thank you. Thank all of you for coming up here and speaking tonight. I don't know if council has comments on this, but Mr. Gay?
I'm the resident expert on council because I have a well and I live on Pioneer Lane, and I've fought all these issues for 40 years. And unfortunately, Union County has a large concentration of arsenic in the soil, so that obviously filters down to the water table. We have a lot of iron that, and I don't know if it has the same effect with you all, but every time we have a hard rain, the brown water starts, and I believe that's the iron. And so I have a pre-filter, and then I've got a water softener, and it's maintenance that you have to do. So I'm definitely on your side, and feel for you all because I'm there with you. I'm not an expert on the water system in Union County, but I know for you all over there, it looks like Brandon Oaks would be the closest area to hook up, but that would be up to the county. But I'd certainly like to see the town help you all.
How many people here with the Morris Park? Wow, okay. And pretty much all of y'all did the environmental health study? Wow, okay. So we've had a good history since I've been on council working with the county, as far as I think we've partnered with them on 2 water lines. One was on Indian Trail Road and one was Emerald Woods. So I think we're going to address this in a little while with ARPA. You want to do?
Yeah, I actually have a couple comments.
Okay, well, I'll but I would be for pursuing this. We partner with the county, and they've been very receptive before. So I think this is something we can certainly put a goal towards solving or getting some help is where I'm at. But yeah, I think y'all have more homes than Emerald Woods. What was Emerald Woods, about 24 homes, and y'all are about 28?
29.
Do you remember?
29. Something along that line, and the water lines are about the same.
Yeah, I think Emerald Woods was 1.1, and this is, we're looking at 1 mile, so it'll probably be about the same cost range. Okay, that's, just want to see how many, half the room at least is in this. Okay, thank you.
Mr. McIntyre?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for coming to speak. For me, I've mentioned this before when Emerald Woods, when they came and they talked about this issue. I'm from a small island in the Caribbean, and I grew up right next door to a river, so fresh water. We have a lot of water on the island, so I know the importance of water, you know, in terms of life. Everybody needs it, access to clean drinking water. You're experiencing the very similar things that the people over in Emerald Woods experience, in that sometimes you can't take a shower because of the issues that come up with the skin. You can't drink the water. You have young kids who come in, they may drink from anywhere in the house, and you don't want them drinking that. I don't want you drinking it. So I do feel for you, and government is there to assist people. That's my personal view. That's why we all get to sit up here, is to assist you in any way that we can. Mayor, if I may, for a second, I don't know if it's better to address this with ARPA, but the thing is, this may not necessarily be ARPA. So I don't know if I can ask for a consensus from the entire council, in that ask the manager and the director of Public Works to get in touch with the county and get a cost estimate. Should they get that cost estimate, in conjunction with that, once they get that information, ask, where's my finance director? Yeah, the finance director, to figure out a funding mechanism for this in order to meet the needs of the people in the community, and then to come back to us as soon as possible to be able to present that, and then therefore we can give further instruction and move on. I'm not asking for a vote, just consensus, if that's an agreeable approach by the council to get moving on this as quickly as possible.
I see everybody's saying that the consensus is, the nod of the head was yes, so it's done. We'll do that. Are you done?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? I just want to say that this council wants to help, and it always has and always will want to help, and that's part of our job. And I think it's what needs to be done is what Mr. McIntyre said, is we need to go to the county, we need to find out what the cost is and what they're willing to do, and how we partner with the county. And when we do that, hopefully in the next month, before we meet again, which will be a month before we meet again, we'll have all those figures and know what we can do and what we will do. And I assume we're going to do everything we can to help you. It's just part of what we do. I think that's what I know everybody up here, and everybody up here wants to help you. And it's you got to have drinking water. And I appreciate all of y'all coming tonight. And I had the pleasure of speaking with you beforehand. And I think, Mr. Frere, you did an unbelievable job of explaining it. And I got to say, Karen, you made some of the best points when you came. And when I say that, I just meant because there's a lot of unknowns. You said, we're between two neighborhoods, and there's a water line here, and there's that. All that needs to be, it could be good news. It could be a short distance for a water line. It could be not as good. And that's all going to be dependent on what the cost of it's going to be. But we're here to help, and we're going to help you. So I know these people, and they're going to help you. So thank you for coming, and I appreciate you doing that. And we'll move on to the next. Is anybody else got another comment? Or I hope you feel better leaving today, because I think it's going to be good news. So thank y'all for being here. Okay, that brings us to Mr. Wanowitz, year-end finance report and revenue expense projections.
Good evening. It's good to be before you tonight. We thought it'd be a good idea to give you an update on the fiscal year 2023 year end. Now, these are pre-audited numbers. Our auditors are downstairs on the independent audit, but I'm going to give you a pretty good projection. In closing 2023, we believe we've managed the funds of our residents in a very efficient manner. The first couple of slides I'm going to take you through is the general fund. Just as a refresher, the general fund is the everyday fund of the town that we oversee. We pay all our expenses, salary, benefits, equipment, everything gets through. And that runs from July to June, 1 year time frame. And then, in addition, that's separate from the capital projects funds and the debt service fund, which basically run through a number of years, depending on when the project gets started and not. So let's start with revenues. Thank you, Bobby. So the first thing I want to discuss, and I'll be brief, I won't tie you up too long, is the taxes ad valorem, taxes motor vehicle. Basically, we budget 96%, and we collect it close to 100%. So you can see those two numbers, the 480 and the 169. That's plus 650,000 to budget, positive. This happens to be my favorite slide. But again, the ad valorem and the motor vehicle, a nickel out of the 18.5 cents goes right into the debt service fund. Now, the debt service, first thing, we have two responsibilities. We pay our debt service, and then in addition to that, the surplus goes into capital projects. Engineer Todd oversees that, allows money, and you'll see later in the presentation that it's nice that we have this because we have quite a few projects going on. The next I'd like to take you through is sales tax. Now you see the sales tax, same slide, Bobby, $1,083,000. Now that's 11 months worth. We still have another month to go. So we're plus 1.1 to budget and sales tax, and I still don't think we're getting our fair share from Union County because they do it on the ad valorem basis. 51 counties in the state out of 49 do it on the pro forma. So I'll give you an example. Waxhaw has a tax rate of 38.6 cents. Ours is 18.5. They get more sales tax than we do. Half our population, very little commercial, and they get more than we do. So again, I'm very happy with this result, but I'm still saying we're still not getting our fair share as far as I'm concerned. Last one I'll take you to is investment earnings. Again, we don't take much credit for this, although Mike and I review this every month. Our original budget was $45,000. We came in over $1 million. We were able to do a couple of projects in that middle column. Adam got us some generators, the bike path. Todd fixed that railroad crossing. We're still plus 600,000. So the revenues, and we still have, again, I'm projected, but we still have another 800,000 coming in on those asterisks on the bottom there. Next slide, Bobby. Expenses. I'll take you through just a few of these. Mike, senior accountant, and I review every quarter. We sit down so there's no surprises. We want to know what's going on. If there's a problem, we'll settle it right there. So I'm happy to report that every department is either on or better than budget. And it's a real team effort. So we're happy about that. I'll take you through a couple. The first one is the community and economic development. We established a fund, $120,000 is available. So we're happy about that. Goes into the next year. We were able to pay off debt 3 years early, which is always a good thing. Moody's and S&P, AAA rating. They encourage us, whenever you can pay debt down, do it. Last one I want to mention is the solid waste. You see we're at 89% in red there. Adam works hard at this, but we're plus 300,000 to budget and expenses. Next slide, please, Bobby. This is our debt. We have 5 outstanding debt issues. Total outstanding debt is $16 million, represents 0.3% of our town's assessed valuation. The state limit is 8%, meaning that we could have debt up to $490 million. So again, Moody's and S&P love that we have such low debt. No current plans for any borrowing, but again, if there's a worthy project out there, we go forward with our AAA rating, and we have quite a bit of capacity. Mike, you want to add anything on?
No, as you can see, our debt load right now is 0.3%, which is excellent. I don't know of any community in North Carolina that is that low and has that low of a tax rate. Also, the way we operate, if the town would ever incur any debt, whether it be bond or installment debt is becoming very popular, we would have to get council authorization. We would also have to submit a request to the local government commission in Raleigh, and what they would look at is they would look at our numbers to make sure we could service the debt. So then they would have to approve the installment debt, but right now, we don't envision any debt instruments in the near future.
Thank you, Mike. Next slide, Bobby. So this is a general fund balance analysis. Take you through it quickly. We began the year audited number at 19 million. I'm projecting an increase this year of 2 million. And that's a conservative number. And it gets us to 21 million. But again, we program and we're committing some of these funds. We have a lot going on in this town. We purchased some property, 2.1 million. We've committed another 2 million to Adams Empire for the new public works facility. That'll get us to 4.5 million. We've committed 6 million. And we're using some fund balance for some capital projects, as you can see. 6.2 million, Chestnut Park Phase 2. Again, this will be in the next couple of years. This won't be spent all at once, but we want you to know that we are programming some of this money. We are using it. And then again, the last slide, you'll see the road project. We've committed 2.5 million in fund balance over the next 5 years for the roads. Thank you, Bobby. Now, this is our 7 capital projects that we have going. It totals about 38 million. The first column are grant funds from the state and federal government, which is fantastic, 19 million. Middle column is what we have to come up with. And the town's portion is basically fund balance, debt service, capital reserve, very strong fund. That's the nickel I talked about. We have 5.1 million in the bank to use that, street bonds, park bonds, there's some money available, stormwater and power bills. So I want you to know we're in very good shape. All these projects are funded. They're getting going. I know Mike and Todd talk about it daily, these projects. Next, Bobby. And this is the road project. 5 years, Todd updated it to 15.6 million. We're committed to the transportation of this town and the roads. We're going to get this done. The money's committed.
Jim, if I could add, if you remember, we had a meeting last fall and we talked about this. We did the pavement condition report. The average score was like 63. Our goal is to hit 80. And so the plan that you approved was to go for a 5-year plan, and in year 3, we will then do another pavement condition report and make a strategic decision of whether we need to keep funding it at that level or reduce it or increase it.
Now, this chart's hard to see, but this is the last chart. And basically what we wanted to demonstrate here is that we also are going to be using our fund balance for cash flow purposes. Todd does the CRTPO project on Indian Trail Complete Street, and it may take us a while to get reimbursed. So we have to use fund balance for that. We just wanted to demonstrate that. Again, blessed to be here. Another year in the books. The auditors are downstairs. I'm expecting another good report. Any questions? I'll open it up to the council. Councilman Dennis.
Yes, sir. I think it was close to 10 years ago, Standard & Poor's reduced the United States government from AAA to 2A, whereas we're a 3A, showing that we're much better managed than the United States government, which is kind of scary. Recently, I can't remember the name of the company. I believe it started with an F, that also downgraded the government to a 2A.
Fitch.
But I've had people, one particular person said, the town should just barely be able to cover their debts every month. Can you tell what the state would do if you got in that kind of condition where you barely, you had proceeds that barely covered your monthly debt? Don't we have regulations from the state that we have to maintain a certain balance sheet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very healthy there, Dennis.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Todd.
Can I get a copy of these,
What's that?
the slides? I mean, you throw these numbers up here, but,
Of
y'all
course.
don't give them to us in advance, so it's kind of hard to ask questions or be prepared, and I was
Of
wondering if we
course, I'll
could,
be happy to
you
get it
know,
to you, Todd.
I don't know if we can make it part of the agenda in the future or something, but
Get 'em out
other
of
than
here.
that, but,
Yeah.
yeah, well, then I want to say, this Saturday you got a birthday, so happy birthday.
Thank you.
49, that's good age.
Something like that. Thank you, Todd. We'll make sure you get a copy.
Mr. McIntyre.
Hey, Jim, Bobby, can you go back to the second slide for a second? the expense slide, sorry, number 3. Jim, sorry, Eagle Eye here. Engineering, asterisk, 30%. We only had actuals of 458, whereas we programmed 1.5 million.
Yes, sir.
Can you speak to that missing $1 million?
Yeah, of course. That's a good point, Marcus. Basically, we had budgeted there to give NCDOT the third installment on the Old Monroe widening. We've committed $5 million. NCDOT, Ty can speak to this better than me. They were a little bit late. They said, you don't have to make the payment this year. Defer it to this year. We still have to pay the $5 million. They just gave us a free ride this year.
And I would assume that they're saying that because they haven't started turning dirt on Old Monroe, right?
There you go.
Plus, the town has given them, excuse me, the tune of $2 million so
So
far.
we already gave them the $3 million in July. So
Right.
we made our third payment this year.
Oh, they did ask for it?
This year.
Okay, all right.
We're in fiscal '24. July 1st started that. So these numbers are wrapping up last year.
Thank you, Jim.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Jim, with all the projects that we have going on, how do you see do you see us in the future as far as a tax? And I want to say something about Jim. Jim's been here, how many years?
I'm in my 8th year.
You're in your 8th year. And we were not a AAA rated town and Jim's come along and he's done a marvelous job.
Well, it's a
And,
team effort, that's for sure.
He has made his AAA rating, and a little bit about AAA rating, now the interest rates are going up. What do we make on interest approximately, you think, this
Yeah,
year?
it's hard to quantify, but our last thing, we came in at 1.5, which was unheard of. So it saves our taxpayers quite a bit of interest, that's for sure.
You're doing something right, but,
Yeah.
I hear things about, a tax increase, because, we did buy some land and we did do, what are you looking with the projects that we have? Do you see a tax increase?
Mayor, that's a good question. Basically, I've been in this business a long time, and I never felt more comfortable with the financial position we're in. Every decision we make, every financial decision we make takes into account the current and the future residents of this town. Based on the structure we have, conservative elected officials, strong town manager, I do not foresee a tax increase. So we've had 18.5 cents for the last 11 years, and I'd like to go another 11 years at 18.5 cents. That's my answer to that. I mean,
Actually, Mayor, I have a question following up on what you just mentioned.
Go ahead.
Jim, you mentioned that the wise councilmen from years gone by, when they were setting up the last tax rate of 8.5 cents, they put a half cent toward debt service, right?
correct.
All right, so that means that any outstanding debt that the town has, that 5 cents would go towards paying that first and then after.
The first thing we do.
So you're following me so far, right? Good. The question that I'm asking is, the current taxes that we bring in for that debt service, are we able to meet the current debt that we have? And if so, do we have any additional money left over?
Yeah,
And if
another-
we do, can you give us an
Yeah,
idea what that
another
amount
question.
is?
Yeah, our debt service for fiscal year '24 is 1.9 million. That's principal and interest for the 5 instruments, and we're budgeting to bring in 2.9 million. So I'm going to give Todd Engineer about $1 million in surplus for capital projects going forward this year.
So if we are able to meet our current debt, we're not planning to have any future debt in the near term.
No, sir.
It means that there is no practical reason for anybody to raise taxes. Thank you, Jim. That's an important point. I appreciate that. Mayor, thank you for bringing that up. That's something that I needed to ask, but I appreciate that. Just one more thing, if I can say, sir. Jim, I just want to say that both you, Mike, your staff, just the things that you guys are doing from a fiscal standpoint, right? The people in the town do feel very comfortable that we're able to do some of the things that we're doing. We have about $38 million in road projects that we, the town, we're undertaking. Some of it, or the majority of it, is roads that we sort of control. Some of the roads here, like for instance, Old Monroe, we do not control that road, so therefore we cannot necessarily spend money, although we're the only town, because Matthews and Stallings didn't give a cent, but we're the only town to put money towards that road, and yet still they can't turn over dirt. But I just want to commend you and your staff,
Thank
Mike,
you.
for all the work that you guys are doing, managing the town's finances, AAA rating. Just the other day, Simon Fitch downgraded the U.S. I think that was a mistake, but Simon Fitch downgraded the U.S. debt, the U.S. Credit rating. So the town of Indian Trail, maybe the U.S. government might have to ask us to borrow some money for them, but appreciate all the work. Thank you.
Brother, I have one last question for you. You'd mentioned earlier that the ad valorem, which, I think can confuse people, that our tax rate, it affects how much sales tax
Yes, sir.
we bring in. And I think we have one of the lowest tax rates of any town our size, not only in the state of North Carolina, but in the whole United States. I think it's because we have a great sheriff's department, and I think we spend less money on the best service that we can get. We've managed our money well over the years. So how do you feel about a tax decrease, lowering taxes? What's your?
Yeah. I'm very happy at the 18.5 cents. I think it's a great rate. I mean, I know, Crystal, can I share the conversation we had about, Crystal had some conversations. I know I get calls from people saying, how do you do it? And how do you keep it 18.5 cents with, our sheriff's contract's up $960,000 in 2 years. Sanitation's up $1 million. And I say, I don't know, call Mike McConnell. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm very happy with the 18.5 cents, Dave. We're one of the lowest for a town our size in the state. That's a fact. And, we got a lot of things going on. We have some beautiful equipment. Adam is keeping our guys, the morale's good, the safety issue. They need some new trucks. Mike says, you sure you need them? He says yes, and we fund them.
Well, I appreciate the job that you guys do, and thank you for all staff for what you do and keeping our town running strong. Thank you, Jim. That brings us up to the Downtown Master Plan update. Information only. Ms. Deese, our planning director.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. We're going to talk about colors instead of numbers for a little bit here. What we wanted to do was just take a few moments of your time to provide you with an update on the Downtown Master Plan. Since it is such a large plan and project, we didn't want to just throw it before you and ask you to take action all in one night. So here's a little bit of information for you. I don't have the clicker. Okay, thank you, Bobby. Okay, so how did we get here? You may remember the 2041 Comprehensive Plan. It was approved in July of 22. This townwide plan lowered density in all areas except for Highway 74, Old Monroe, and downtown. Public input during the comprehensive plan revealed our residents want a downtown. A few of the comments included, make downtown a destination, make downtown beautiful and where somewhere to enjoy going to. I would like to see downtown a destination with restaurants and shopping. It also revealed what we already know is that we have leakage. This survey said that 24% of Indian Trail residents dine or shop locally. All the rest are going elsewhere. So that's a lot of sales tax that we're losing, of course. Creating a downtown was also listed as the number 2 priority for town council's priorities. And so with this in mind, staff was directed to update the 06 Downtown Master Plan, and funding was identified in June of 22. The draft plan was received in late June of this year and initially presented to Planning Board on July the 18th. You're hearing about it today. Next Tuesday, Planning Board will likely take action and give you a recommendation on the plan. And then there is a public hearing tentatively scheduled for September the 12th, but this certainly could change. So let's compare the two plans from 06 to the current plan. Both plans are very similar in the framework, but the 06 plan is smaller in scale and a poster size format that we do have a copy if anybody wants to see that. The new plan is more of a report style and takes a little bit of a deeper dive. This current plan that we have for 2023 is less dense than the 06 plan. It showed more hardscape, in the core and cluster open space on the edges. This current plan shows more green space within the core area. Both plans display the existing buildings, but it does assume some redevelopment. And like any good downtown plan, both call for buildings to be pulled to the street, parking in the rear, so you have minimal setbacks, and that's just a basic good urban design principle for a downtown. It helps promote pedestrian-friendly development. Both plans show 3-story renderings. The current plan mentions 50 feet in height. The existing UDO does give a little bit more height allowance, and it's been in the code for several years as a way to attract development. If we get a really good development, we don't want to set that ceiling too low for them. But what we do know is looking at other downtowns that have developed a little bit more than ours, such as Matthews, you're generally going to get, 2-3-story buildings. Not every building that's going to come up is going to be 3, 4, 5-story buildings. So we know that. We do have the renderings currently, as you can see on the screen, at 3-story. With a 50-foot height, that should probably be brought to at least 4 stories. But we do not currently want to make any changes. We don't want the consultants spending their time and resources and charging us when we haven't heard from Planning Board. We don't know if Planning Board wants to reduce that height further or if they want to increase it. So we really want to wait to hear from them so that we can stay within budget for the project. So the goal here would be to see people walking downtown, heading to destinations, dining and shopping. Now the one downfall of our downtown is we do not have the good old school grid pattern. In most older cities, you can take a left, eventually take a right, and avoid traffic and get to where you want to go. That doesn't happen here. We don't have that grid system, so you can see that both plans promoted interconnected streets, adding in additional ways to navigate through town instead of sitting in the parking lot on Indian Trail Road at 5 p.m. So. And although you can't really see it today, we're making huge strides behind the scenes. So Chestnut Connector and Indian Trail Complete Street is fully funded and underway. So hopefully we'll see some dirt moving around. But these road improvements would be completed prior to any new large development, especially considering the sewer capacity issue that we're facing. And here's just a little bit of a visual for you. Again, you can see the 06 plan to your left, a little bit denser. You see the greener areas on the outskirts, mostly hardscape in the core. And then the current plan is less dense and more green space within the core. All right, so what kind of public outreach did we do? We started with a public input session in December of 2022. Changes were made based on those comments received. Public notification was mailed in June and in July, and changes were made both at those points as well. We're still receiving feedback from property owners, even currently, and making changes, but there will be additional public comment opportunities next Tuesday at the Planning Board meeting, as well as the public hearing before Town Council, of course. We're still interested to hear more. If you own property in downtown and you have not reached out to us, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your inputs, and we'll make changes accordingly. So what has our response been to the public comments? We didn't want to take public comment just to say we took public comment. We wanted to react and make changes based on the feedback. The draft plan called for consistent districts in downtown. So currently there is all ranges, SF1, light industrial, GBD, CBD, MBD, just about anything that we offer, you can find it in our downtown. And so The plan from the consultant called for 2 districts, a core and a transitional district. Both of these were commercial. A couple of days after staff received this plan, we realized that Union County assesses taxes based on zoning and not land use, which was new to us. So we immediately started working late hours to try and figure out, okay, how can we reduce this impact? We are not going to put forth a plan that could double or triple folks' tax bills. So this is where we added the residential district to help avoid that tax impact. The existing land uses, I want to touch with that a little bit. It's not our intent to increase taxes or force people out of downtown. Any existing land use is permitted forever and ever until the property owner decides differently. The power of redevelopment lies with the property owner and the ability to get sewer capacity. We did have a few light industrial properties that were on the edges that we could easily cut out. One of them is Spangler over here on Smith Farm Road. We also granted several property owners grandfathering opportunities because they called and said, hey, we've got this property under contract. The use is not going to be allowed anymore. The Presbyterian Church was a good example of that. They were under contract for a daycare. We said, get us a site plan in, and we'll consider you grandfathered. And so the 2 that reached out that had concerns have both submitted site plans and are grandfathered. So we really have been trying to do everything that we can to respond to the concerns. But why would you want to limit some of the uses? Well, we want to limit uses so that we can activate the street. We don't create dead space after 5 or on the weekends. That's how you create a successful downtown. One of the other things that we removed was young from the young professionals. That was listed as a number 2 principle in the plan. When we spoke with the consultant, they said their intent was to create an area to attract professionals. They didn't really have a problem removing that word, and they're going to add some additional language to so that you can fully understand their intent on that principle number 2. We did hear about the traffic concerns. Largely, a lot of the conversation in planning board was based upon road projects and questions there. And as I mentioned before, those are fully funded projects that are underway. We heard the concern about building height, and we've reduced that down. And then the current scoping did not include parcel level details. So we did hear some comments where folks wanted a little bit more detail, but council would have to choose to take that action as the current pricing did not include that. Additional public comments. We added language to further protect the churches in downtown. We are not trying to push away any existing use out of downtown. All existing land uses are grandfathered, and again, it's up to the property owner if and when they choose to change, not the town. We can't force private development. We also have added language that if damage exceeds 50% of the building value, they would still be able to rebuild. So that's a section in our non-conforming language within our UDO. If, let's say, a building burns down and it exceeds 50% of the damage, they're non-conforming and they're not allowed to rebuild. But we heard some concerns on that, and so we're adding that language in to address that concern as well. And I just want us to remember this is a 20-year plan, and it will occur slowly. This won't be drastic. It won't change the look of downtown overnight. The other issue is that we heard concerns about the railroad and a possible derailment. So the Public Safety Work Group met on the 26th of July, and I learned something I did not know, that if a derailment occurred locally, we would step back, our local resources would step back, and federal resources would take over. The feds would bring in their own law enforcement, traffic control, hazmat, everything they need to contain that. We also need to understand that the right-of-way for the railroad is 100 feet, so that's a lot of room within to operate, so we don't feel like any buildings could be at risk. And then personally, when I think of a downtown, I can't think of one downtown that doesn't have a railroad going through it, because it's our history and it's just natural for downtowns. So lastly, we would beg of you to please contact us if you have questions. We're available by phone, email, in person. If you need assistance after hours, we're happy to accommodate that as well. We have a team of planners ready to discuss your property. I do want to give a thanks to Tyler and Tim here in the back for all of their late hours and hard work on trying to get this plan to where it needs to be based on the public comments. And then here's our contact information, but I also quickly wanted to show you the website. If you go to indiantrail.org, you can hover over the government tab, and underneath planning, the first link is the downtown master plan page. We happen to have a GIS guru in-house, and so you can see that third link, the downtown interactive rezoning map. You can go and actually type in your address, and it'll show you what's changing. We've also got planning board minutes on here, of course, the master plan, and then we've got frequently asked questions. So we're going to be updating this throughout the process. So if you don't necessarily want to reach out to us, I would encourage you to take some time with this website and take a look at the plan. Thank you.
Hold on, Brandy, is there any questions?
I'd just like to make a comment. Anytime you have something like this come along, there are people who want to distort it and scare people. And I saw something on Facebook the other day that just amazed me. Now, you're all hearing tonight that there's been no decisions made. It hadn't even gone through the planning board. But somebody said, I'm absolutely floored about the town board of Indian Trail. They decided that the 2,000 acres down Main Street, that they will be tearing down every building that is not important. I didn't know downtown was 2,000 acres. Every church that closes will be torn down so that they can build good businesses on the first floor and apartments on the top 2 floors. Now let's see how smart they are. They set this in stone, and then one of the intelligent ones said, well, do any of the fire stations have a ladder that goes up 3 floors? My thoughts were, in the condition this world is in, churches are not important. I can't imagine anybody here wanting to tear down churches, and it's not going to happen. I mean, there's somebody that was running around telling people that there's going to be 10-story buildings and downtown Indian Trail is going to look like a canyon. I mean, there's ridiculous things being said, and I'm glad you're all here tonight to see that none of these things are true. So if you hear it, always call the town and ask questions, because we're here for you all. Yeah, somebody saying the VFW is going to be torn down. I mean, we just gave $150,000 to renovate the VFW. So there's just a lot of things out there being said right now that just are not true.
Any other questions? Mr. Barber?
You gave a comparison from 2006, and then you gave a response to public comments, and you showed a map, but which we really didn't get was what actually the plan is. Because I think, like a lot of people, we see the zoning signs up and down, and I'd be very interested to see what the zoning is, what it's changing to. There's some different zoning categories seem to be being created. I think people want explanations on those. And so my real question is the stuff here that you say it's changed, has that been changed in what we publicized online? Because I'd like to get an update if it's been changed.
Sure. So we talked a little bit about the different zoning districts. The initial plan called for 2 districts. We realized the tax impact, so it's actually going to change to 3 districts rather than the variety of districts we have. So you'll have a downtown core, you'll have a downtown transitional district, and then you'll have a downtown transitional district that's residential. That'll protect like the Ashland subdivision, for instance. There's absolutely no reason why they should have to pay commercial land value when they are a fully platted subdivision and most likely won't be redeveloped. So the zoning districts, there's 3 new districts. The residential is protected through that 3rd district, and then the core district, a lot of those properties were CBD, which is essentially, a name change, right? It's a downtown commercial district going to a downtown commercial district, just a different change in the name and a few land uses that have changed. So, not a huge impact. The biggest impact was on that residential, and that's where we focused on adding that district.
Well, a lot of people probably like to know is, can you build an apartment zoning by right now there? Or does it change the zoning to where they can build apartment zoning by right in the future? I mean, my thing is what you're saying, I appreciate you answering my question, you're doing a good job, but has it been updated into what I like to have it in the plan that I have. I mean, I got a physical copy, but has that been updated is the question.
Are you asking for a map which shows the proposed districts and the boundaries?
She had all these changes from the public comments. I just wonder if they've been changed into the proposal.
Thank you for clarifying, Councilmember Barber. So we do not want to make those changes until we know how Planning Board feels, because we have a specific budget. And if we ask the consultant to go change the renderings, change this, change that, and then Planning Board has a totally different take, we're going to be outside of our budget. So we have all of those changes documented, ready to hit send to the consultant. But we want to figure out where Planning Board is. We didn't really get much feedback from Planning Board during their first meeting.
Well, these are just responses. They're not set in stone.
No, nothing's set in stone at this point. Council could change everything. Yeah, but this is definitely the plan that we're moving forward with, but we'll have to wait and see what Planning Board says about it.
Any other questions? I've got a few questions, Brandy. I took a stroll downtown and this week and talked to different business owners, and I did hear that the churches were going to be torn down, and I heard the same thing that Mr. Gay had read. But I've heard that people have said that there's going to be 10-story buildings, and you mentioned in this plan, which I was surprised when you said this, 50 foot is in the plan we're talking about now, 50 feet. So we're talking 4 stories max, 3 to 4-story buildings,
Correct.
not 10-story buildings.
Correct.
And I think you mentioned our UDO says 75 feet.
That's correct.
So actually, it's permissible that they build one 75 feet, which would be a little over 5 stories, between 5 and 6 stories.
You could squeeze 6, but most likely with the
Between
ceiling
5,
heights is
yeah,
probably
somewhere
5.
around there. So that was already in the, written
Has
in
been
there.
for
That's law.
years.
That's the law. So 50 feet. So that really doesn't, and I don't know how people got 10-story buildings out of that. But those were the things that we need to get done. And I keep seeing where, and I think this, what I'm getting ready to say, is the most important thing of all. The people that are quoting that the VFW is, I don't see the VFW on there. I don't see the pharmacy on there. I don't see all this stuff. Well, the town can't take those away. They're the property owners. The town has no jurisdiction to take away anybody's business, nor would they take away anybody's business. And I think that needs to be said. And when I hear these comments, I'm curious of who they are. That when I say they people going around saying they're going to take this away. Well, who are they? Are they the council? Are they the staff? And I just want people to know that this council wants the best for this town. They're not going to allow that. I know everybody up here. They're not going to allow 10-story buildings. It's just not going to happen. And it's not even in the plan, so I don't know why it's being told it's that way. And that's part of social media. Social media, things grow and grow and grow and grow, and so many people watch social media or look at social media, and they believe what social media says. That's why these meetings are so important. And I'm so glad that there's a crowd of people in here tonight that can see the actual truth behind what this plan is. The council is who asked for this plan. You know, the council was the one that said, hey, and it doesn't really, there's not much difference between the 2006 plan. And the odd thing is, I just found out tonight that this plan has less density than the 2006 plan, which is amazing to me. So if everybody in town could watch the meetings, you wouldn't, unfortunately, 99% of the people don't watch meetings. So it's important that the people that do pay attention let the people know that this council works for the people, wants for the people, and spread the news that this is not 10-story buildings. This is not where the VFW actually called. I'm very passionate about the VFW. It'd be over my dead body that they took over the VFW. And I tell you, it'd be a lot of other veterans that stood out there too. It'd be over their dead body that they took over the VFW and somebody wiped out and pushed it away. It isn't going to happen. It is never going to happen until they decide, or the town decides that one day, 25 years from now, that we'll work together and get them a new building or something, and possibly. But the VFW is very, very important to all of us. So when I see stuff like that, it hurts. And I called the commander this week, and I told the commander, I see where, you know, there's a rumor going out that there's no VFW in this plan. I said, that's absolutely no truth to the story. So anyway, with that being said, I want that to be stated, and that we care, and we're not going to let that happen. We will not let that happen.
After you're done, you finished?
Yes.
Brandy, what, on the plan we have now, what's been done out of that plan? Anything?
Councilmember Amber, that's actually a really good point. So I think a lot of folks thought, oh, this is going to drastically change downtown. If you look at the 06 plan and what has been done within the boundaries of that plan, the Ardmore Apartments, so the first phase of Town Center is the only thing that's been developed. So it will be slow.
Here, we've
Right,
only had that,
right. And then you
that's
add-
high density.
Then you add the sewer capacity, it's going to be slow.
So it's just a plan that
Correct.
we're working on, trying to give a future view, possibly of Indian Trail.
A roadmap, essentially.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, I think that helps us out a lot. I appreciate the presentation. Any other questions? No? Mr. Gay?
I just want to mention that there's always Chicken Littles running around saying that the sky's falling, and people crying wolf. And, you know, if you cry wolf so many times and you see that what they're crying is not going to happen, then you just have to take those people and, you know, and just judge them for what they are. But, you know, you got good, solid management here. And, I mean, this town's been here. And, you know, it started off, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, this was just a little crossing where people would get off the train. As a few goods would come through for the train, but there was no population here at all. It was very rural and agricultural. So we had areas like Matthews and Waxhaw that built downtowns. And, you know, they're neat. If you go down there, they're really, really pretty buildings that, you know, have a lot of history. Well, we never had that. We had an old store next to the railroad track, and I wish it was still there, but it was torn down. And so we never had a town to speak of. It was just a railroad stop. So if we want to have our town sometime, now that we are a town, we were just a community, then we have to do some, you know, some planning in the future. And it's not to do any harm to anybody who's already here. It's just to maybe in 20, 30, 40 years it may change, but there's not going to be any changes right away.
Okay, Brandy, great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning staff, thank you also. I just want to sum that up with one quick thing. I'm in no hurry. I hope council's in no hurry to get this thing passed. I want to work with the residents. I want to hear all the concerns. I heard some concerns today about some of the things. And I'll tell you what, we're going to work with you. And I think one of the things that we talked about today was the fact that if something burned down or something went all the way down, that now you are, we fixed, I asked, and I knew that was a big concern to somebody, and we fixed that. So if something goes, you can bring it back to whatever it was before, whether it's 50%, 100%, or whatever. But we're going to work with you. We're going to work with the residents. So that being said, that brings us to public comments. By addressing council, you've acknowledged that you've read the town's public comment rules and will abide by them. First up tonight is Clarence E. Alsabrooks Jr. Come on up, Clarence.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and those on social media. My name is Clarence Edward Alsabrooks Jr., and I use my whole name because I'm proud of who I am. I came from two sets of grandparents that could not read or write, but they were hard workers, and I benefit from the opportunities that they gave me. I live at 3507 Fincher Road, and as a candidate for a 2023 Indian Trail Town Council seat, I would like to share a little bit about me and my campaign. First off, I will run a clean campaign. I am not running or have opponents. I am running for myself, and I'm running hard, and I'm running a clean campaign. You won't hear anything negative from me. It's not in my nature to tear anyone down. I want to be elected as a representative for local government for the people and by the people. I'm a member of First Baptist Church Indian Trail, but I attend the East Campus. I know that churches and service groups are a vital part of a town or a community. I'm also a native of Indian Trail. I actually went to school and have a classmate, Chris Hunke, or Captain Hunke, excuse me. Went to school with Jennifer right here. We ran track. I worked with Miss Victoria's daughter many years ago. I'm a former member of the Indian Trail Planning Board, and I'm currently on the Indian Trail Board of Adjustment. I'm a member of Union West Rotary Club, where our motto is service above self. I graduated from Sun Valley High School, and I attended Appalachian State. I served in the Air Force in the war in Iraq. I stand with law enforcement. I support the fire departments, the EMTs, the first responders, etc. I'm a strong supporter of creating dialect to build a sense of community. I support maintaining parks and creating green spaces. I'm an advocate of the town of Indian Trail taking over and maintaining town roads from the NCDOT. We all know that Indian Trail has a traffic problem. That's why I took it upon myself more than a year ago to start attending the CRTPO meetings, which stands for Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization. I have made many connections through CRTPO with mayors and town council members of the surrounding areas, including Matthews, Stallings, Waxhaw, Weddington, Marshville, etc. My plan is to work together with all Union County in order to solve the traffic problems that affect Indian Trail. I have plans to talk to the presidents of each neighborhood HOA. Each neighborhood should have a representative that attends every town council meeting. That representative would report back to their neighbors the dealings and the results of the town council meetings. I would make myself available to hear the thoughts and feelings and concerns of those neighbors. This is an example of government for the people and by the people. Please take the time to check me out on Facebook, or you can email me at electalsabrooks@gmail.com. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Alsabrooks. Mr. Dan Schellenkamp.
Mayor and Council, Dan Schellenkamp, candidate for Mayor of Indian Trail. And I was going to talk about the $2.2 million land purchase, but I need to change my talk a little bit. First of all, I didn't realize that we're allowed to talk about our campaign, so I'll be prepared to deliver a 3-minute talk at the next meeting related to my campaign. The current draft that was of the downtown plan that was presented to the planning board last month, was I mistaken, or were there maximum heights of 100 feet allowable? Could that be where some people got the idea that there could be 9 or 10-story buildings? It looks like it's been changed to 50 feet, which is excellent, because 100 feet was a non-starter. So I see some nice improvements because people took the time to go to the planning board meeting and make their voices heard, to call and have their voices heard. So again, perhaps the 100-foot original height in the plan presented to planning board was one of the reasons why this so-called rumor of up to 10-story or 9-story buildings came along. So let's be real about it. With regard to the $2.2 million land purchase, in the vote of 3-2 in July, and I encourage all the citizens to look at take a look at the video of last week's meeting where the land purchase was discussed. And I asked Mayor Cohn and the 3 council members who voted for it, when did you first view the appraisal document? When did you first view the survey document? When did you view the water study document? When did you view the environmental document? I believe the answer is, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe none of you viewed those documents prior to your vote. I believe you saw the survey perhaps a few hours before the vote. And the survey was raised by Councilman Barber and Councilman Ambergy as a concern about a sewer line that runs straight up the middle of the property. The appraisal itself, I read them after the deal was closed. The appraisal makes it clear that because a survey was not provided to the appraiser assumed that there are no easements across the property. The survey clearly showed an easement of a 30-foot sewer line. Those are in confrontation with one another. Was the appraisal overpriced because it did not consider the sewer line? Well, the people of Indian Trail trust you to do oversight. How do you do oversight if you did not read the due diligence documents before you voted?
Thank you, Dan. That brings us to Michael Falconberry.
Good evening. It's like it's going to be an interesting election this year. I want to thank the staff and council for having the downtown master plan update. Clear up a lot of rumors as I came across on myself. I put it on the hornet's nest. It's ridiculous. I think we all know who started the rumor about the VFW not being on the plan. One of you sitting behind the counter right now. That needs to be addressed as well. Also, in regards to items 10, C, and D, okay, a candidate again put on their Facebook page there was 18 acres undeveloped that could be used for a community center. I've yet to see any proof of where these 18 acres are located, or if they're 1 acre increments, 2 acres, how large the plots are. No evidence whatsoever. Also, in regards to the open closed session meeting minutes, there were 2 speakers up here in the last couple of months revealing information that when I researched, I never found anything in any meeting minutes or any council meeting videos. So how did these 2, who are now candidates, have this information in advance? And as for this drama about the $2 million for the 12 acres, yeah, there's a sewer easement down the middle, and I read too there's flooding issues. Well, guess what? The theater was built on a floodplain. Part of that is on a floodplain. It worked. Yeah, it took some planning, took effort, but it worked. But I don't understand being consistent. We're worried about $2 million for 12 acres, but they had no problem $750,000 for an acre and a half with 2 houses on it. I explained what the plan for that was going to become. On that note, you have a good evening. Thank you.
Up next is Donna Hasselflute. Donna?
Good evening. My name is Donna Hasselflute. I, too, was born and raised in Indian Trail, as was my 94-year-old mother. I'm here to talk about the Downtown Master Plan update. The frequently asked question states, it is simply to guide future growth as it develops naturally. This plan will not pressure property owners to sell to developers. The market dictates that. I own 5 commercial properties in downtown Indian Trail. Simply a plan put in place for when development does occur. Creating a downtown is one of the priorities of the council and the residents want for our town. What happens to naturally develops? What happens to market indicates? So, this 2006 plan, which my father was one of the stakeholders, however, I was not asked to be one of the stakeholders in the new plan. This downtown plan needed updating. The market hasn't indicated any changes. I own property, I know. The downtown looks pretty much like it did in 2006, 17 years later. So the market's not demanding anything. Staff presented this plan to the planning board July the 18th. I attended that meeting, and the board chairman stated that they would take whatever amount of time needed to understand this project. Although it stated that the town's goal was to give the planning board, council, and residents time to review, it appears it's being pushed for recommendation too quickly. I understand the North Carolina general statute that if the planning department doesn't make a recommendation, you may go ahead and vote on it, but I really ask you not to do that. This proposal impacts 544 acres, which is a large part of the town. I thank you for some of the changes you did make, but this is not an expansion. The only expansion on these districts is residential. And yes, multi-use apartments is going to be a permitted use on all this. So it doesn't have to go to a conditional use. There were 24 changes. 3 were residential. 21 were changing what was already permitted. Religious assembly and daycares. I think we need to really look into this as to what this rezoning and how it's going to impact businesses, me as a property owner, because basically you are going to try to drive me out by not allowing me to rent my property to whomever I like to rent because you've made it a prohibited use. So please, I ask you to consider this, give it long enough to review, long enough to know what impact it's going to have, not just on me, but others.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, that brings us to council comment. Council, anybody have anything to say? Mr.
Yeah,
Gavel?
well, I'd like to address a couple of concerns. First of all, we had one of the best appraisers in the area that is preferred by all the banks to do our appraisal. And he was impressed with the property. You know, as far as sewer, I mean, do you want a property with sewer or do you want it without sewer? Without sewer, you can't build. So the sewer was a premium thing there for the property. Also, as far as information, we had 5 closed session meetings where everyone on the council here had an opportunity to look at this piece of property and study it. But our engineering department, and I think they do an excellent job, we've got engineers here that had looked at everything on this piece of property, and they knew everything about it. So for folks who come in and say that we do rely on our staff and our employees, and they're very good at what they do. So I don't think anybody has to worry about the property and everything about it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to say something, sir. I know it's an election year. I'm not running for re-election. Thank you, Jesus, I'm not. But the thing is, I try to be measured in my approach and my response and respect people when they come up to speak because I do believe citizens have a voice. But to sit here and listen to some of the things that is being said by a particular candidate for one of the offices, it just was wrong. The information that we have came from everybody. The decision to move forward was 4-1. There's no secrets. None of us on council own that land. The land was not even for sale at the time that we looked at it. It was something that came up and we inquired as to would they be willing to sell because of its proximity to the current park that we're looking to expand. The fact that a town of Indian Trail size, the largest in terms of population in Union County, we're very close to Monroe in terms of size. We do not have a community center where people can come in during the day, in particular to play mahjong. I tell you, as soon as I'm done in December, I am coming out to play mahjong. But the point is, we need somewhere for people to come and do this. And we, from the very beginning, we knew that there was easements for the sewer, and Indian Trail and just North Carolina, especially where we are being flat, you do have some floodplains. Sometimes it's a 20-year, 50-year, 100-year floodplain, right? So that does exist. But the thing is to sit here and listen to that. That is just, it is just being disingenuous, if I can say that, and just somebody trying to be very liberal with the truth. So I just want to point out, Mayor, that when people come up there, it would be really nice if they would just speak the truth, be honest in their, in what they're saying, because the information is all there for all of us to see. Thank you, sir.
Please do me the courtesy and tell me what was inaccurate.
Excuse me, sir.
What was inaccurate about what I said?
Captain Hunky?
This is not, Dan, we're not gonna make a spectacle out of this meeting.
He says I was inaccurate, I'm asking how I was inaccurate.
Captain Hunky, can you handle this for us, please?
Point of order. I'm gonna tell you, point of
Dan,
order.
just be quiet. I got something to say.
Okay.
Just because someone speaks doesn't mean it's true. You know, facts are, you know, things weren't to divulge to us, you know, so that's where I leave it. You can read about it, look at it yourself, and it's there for you to read. So go online, check it out.
Thank you. Mr. Barber.
Well, we own the land now. It's got a lot of challenges. I voted against it. It's got 1,600 linear feet of creeks on it that are federally protected. So 30-foot easement, sewer run across it. It's got an environmental issue. So there's some challenges there, but we own it. So, but I voted against the purchase. As far as the downtown plan, I'm very respectful of the owners up and down Indian Trail Road. I hear what you're saying. I wasn't here in 2006, and I wouldn't approve that plan. I don't, you know, my feeling is look, when I look at the map, the maps did show, you know, no VFW, things like that. So those maps, to me, should have never been drawn. That's the way I feel about it. As far as what you're looking at, as far as the downtown plan, my vision was, I wasn't asked up front about the plan. My vision was, I thought we'd go through more like a Main Street, North Carolina. North Carolina has the Department of Commerce, one of the best business environments in the country. We have the best Main Street program in the country. It's the most attended conference of any state. I had thought we would go more a downtown plan that way. Monroe and Waxhaw both went through the program. They've been designated Main Street programs. I was thinking, like you said, where we maintain the feel of what we have, and that's kind of what, so I'm watching this. A lot of business owners feel like you, and that's kind of where I'm at. But I'm watching this. You know, they're saying they're going to change stuff, so we'll see. Okay, but I appreciate your comments. They were spot on. Thank you. And I don't know your last name, Donna. I'm sorry, I would. But anyway, thank you for speaking.
Anybody else? I have a comment. I don't know who they are again. They are we, and then we will not. We're not going to prove anything like that. So I understand what you're saying. But they are we. We are they. And
We, they, us.
we are the, and it's not going to happen. So anyway, with that going on through, I have one question, and Brandy, my question's for you. If you would step up, and I want to know that where did the 100 feet come from? I understand it was in the plan. Was the 100 feet in the plan?
The 100 feet was initially in the plan for the core, only the core, but now you will not get 10 stories out of 100 feet.
Okay, so it was in the core, but it's no longer in the plan.
Correct.
And when you say core, what do you mean by the core?
So the core is the intersection here at Matthews Indian Trail and Indian Trail Road. That is kind of the center and the heart of our downtown. It's the most interior area of our downtown district.
But now it's not. And
Correct.
And is it not for Is this not what it's all for, though? I mean, is the public comments and the people coming up is to work with the people and get things settled and get,
Right.
and to tell people, yes, they're not going to take their, no, there's not going to be a 100-foot buildings, or there's not going to be 10-story. It's not, as I read, a mini Charlotte that they're building here. But anyway, that's what we're doing. And again, we're not going to rush this plan. This plan's not going to be pushed through. It will not. I'm telling you, it will not. And we're going to do the right thing. And but in the meantime, it would be nice if we did not, would not go out and before we get a plan finalized and tell people that the VFW is going to be gone and the drugstore is going to be gone and all that stuff, because it's not. But I understand. I understand. But let's work together. Let's all work together and get this thing done right. Yes, Todd.
Good comment. And in spirit of what you're saying is, I understand the planning board got their package late before they viewed this. So my question is can we as a council give the planning board another meeting or two, or how much time they need to get all the public comments and everything out? I mean, can we do that?
Well, part of the
can the
reason.
council approve that, or can we do that, or give them the time? I mean, like you said, we're in no hurry. I mean, and let the public have all the say-so they can. I mean, that's what you're saying, right? We're in no hurry.
Exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that the ultimate decision, planning board, I appreciate them very much. They need to get the facts dealt to them. I think you've got the facts now. You've got everything to present to the planning board. Present it as the plan is now, and get it through the planning board, because I know what Brandy's getting ready to say, because the council can vote on it
In 30 days.
in 30 days, without the planning. So that's why I'd like to see the planning board to come up with something with the facts, and then that way we can put it aside and
Mayor,
yes.
can we suspend the rule for 30 days?
I can, just 1 second.
Okay.
But let's finish this. We can do it. So I understand what you're saying, but what I'm wanting to do is to get it to go through the planning board with the facts and stop. And because somewhere along the line, we've got to draw a line that says these are what they are. We can't keep changing it and go back and forth, and then hearsay gets out, more hearsay gets out, and more hearsay gets out. Let's get something there, and then let's work with everybody and let the council work with it. But I don't think is anybody on this council wanting to rush this thing through. I'd just be happy to do it a year from now or whenever. I'm not here to rush this thing through. It's got to be done right.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to briefly explain. When we realized the impact on the tax increase, that was the delay in getting packets out. That's the very reason why we were not trying to rush this. That's why Planning Board's getting a second meeting on this, so that they've got plenty of time to go through the plan. And as far as the general statutes and the rules, that would be all up to council as to whether you wanted to take action. I don't think there's any desire to do that. But I just wanted, there is general statutes out there that would allow you to do so if you chose to.
Okay, thank you, Brandy. Thank you for your hard work. I'd like to take a 5-minute break here and announce that if we all would like to bow our heads, and Stony Russian's passed away. Commissioner Stony Russian, and it's a sad day in our county, in our town. Whether you knew Stony as you supported him or you didn't support him, Stony worked hard for the county. And I want to take a moment of silence, if we would, for maybe the next 30, 45 a minute, and then take a 5-minute break, if that's okay. So can we have a moment of silence? Thank you very much. Take a 5-minute break.
Thank you, Mayor.
1 second, I'm looking something up here. I'm looking for the, hold on, and I've got it right here. I should have did this before I called everybody to our attention. Gonna take another 5-minute break. I'm joking. Hold on just a second. I always do this. I put a piece, it's for the proclamation or what we have tonight. Where is that on our
The resolution?
yes, excuse me, the resolution. Where is that?
No, that's consent.
Got it, but I'm trying to find it on the, okay, it's 10A.
10A.
We're on number 6. All right, I want to suspend the rules if I can, and Marcus, maybe help me. Georgiana, where are you? Here. She can no longer stay. She's got to go. And I want to know if we can move this, because this is what she's here for today.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move item 10A up to, we'll call it 5D as in David.
5B, well, 5D, like David, I'm sorry. Okay. All in favor of that? Unanimous. So, I'm going to move that, and that was on, that's 7, is that 7A?
No, 10.
10A, I'm sorry, 10A. Resolution to Union County sewer odor within Heritage subdivision.
Yes,
And
sir.
Georgiana, I appreciate you coming, and I want to read this because she lives in the Heritage neighborhood, and they're having some problems, and this is, we support them in their efforts to get what I'm about ready to read you fixed, hopefully. So, resolution to support the resolving sewer odor at the Heritage subdivision. Whereas the Heritage subdivision is a new neighborhood, portions of which are being developed and located within the municipalities of Indian Trail and Wesley Chapel. And whereas Union County provides sewer services to these residents, and whereas the residents are experiencing a nauseous sewer smell throughout various parts of the day, and whereas the residents have reached out to Union County government and the developer in an effort to obtain relief, and whereas the developer has proposed placing a filter in the manpower cover, which has not been proven to be effective, and whereas residents are reporting that the smell is making some residents sick and are concerned about the neighborhood's quality of life and are frustrated that no solution has been implemented. And now, therefore, the Town Council of Indian Trail shares residents' concerns and encourages all parties to work together to identify and implement a permanent solution as quickly as possible, adopted this 8th day of August, 2023. So, Georgiana, I'm glad we got that in, and I apologize. Generally, meetings aren't this long, but you know, the town council supports you guys over there, and we will try to help with the county and with the developer. And I've been, as you know, to several of your meetings, and we'll do all we can do to help get this. Y'all have a beautiful neighborhood, absolutely fantastic neighborhood. So
we appreciate your help.
yes, yes, and I need a motion to adopt. Thank you.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution regarding the sewer odor within Heritage subdivision as presented.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on, we did find a minor typo in that resolution, so we'll correct it in the morning. You can sign it in the morning.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, council. Appreciate it. All right, that brings us back to, and this brings us up to the law enforcement, Captain Hunky.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I've given you a packet. If you'll notice that our cost of service has gone up about 14% from this time last year or even last month. And I always try to find a reason, and I think I'm going to blame it on the triple digits we had in July. But everything's going great in our office. I did want to take a minute to thank Councilman Crystal for her work in Adopt a Cop. All of our officers were adopted by citizens of Indian Trail, some by multiple citizens of Indian Trail, and they're all given little care baskets. It's like Christmas in August, I guess, for our guys, and they were just giddy as can be, candies, sweets. I mean, they're grown men, but still acting like children, but very much appreciated, and again, I'd like to thank you guys.
You were picking out some of their candies. I saw you.
Sir, I don't know what you're talking about. Unless you have video, I'm not going to address it again. So, unless you guys have any questions for me, yes, sir.
I have one thing I want to say. Captain Hunky, just want to say to you and your guys that you guys do a phenomenal job. Last night, riding through town, going to a meeting, the storm came through, took out the lights, but you guys were on top of that. So I really do appreciate the response that you and your team provide to the town in terms of various things that are happening when the roads are closed and so on. But please keep on doing a good job because we are blessed to have you guys here.
Well, thank you, sir. And I tell you, I give credit where credit's due as well. Had communication with several people in this community, several leaders in this community as well. And again, communication. It's all about communicating, and that's what got us there. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you and the town staff for doing a great job on National Day Out. There was just one big disappointment, and you probably know where I'm coming. Mr. Hunky wasn't in the dunking tank.
Sir, I'm not messing this up. I'm just saying. Thank you, guys.
I also want to say thank you. I saw, I was witness to altercation at Walmart, go figure, the other day, and your men were very professional. They handled it with urgency. They made everybody around feel safe. So I commend y'all on the professionalism, and I thank y'all for making us feel safe.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Captain Hunt. Okay, that brings us up to a public hearing. Ms. Dees?
Actually,
Oh, have I skipped something?
consent.
I'm
7.
sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Can I get a motion on the consent agenda? I did skip it.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor? Unanimous. All right, now, Brandy. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be a little quicker this time with this one. So we have before you tonight an annexation and a zoning map amendment. It's actually an initial zoning designation, so we're not necessarily rezoning it. We're just assigning it a designation within the town. So we're looking here at annexation of 13 parcels off of Fripp Lane in Brandon Oaks subdivision. We do by law have to assign a zoning designation within 60 days. The current zoning is R20. We are proposing SF4, which is consistent with the development and the surrounding parcels as well. So if you take a look at the aerial map here, I wasn't here at the time, but for whatever reason, developers do like to kind of get out of Dodge when they get close to the end of the subdivision. And for whatever reason, these 15 parcels were never annexed, but clearly it was intended for them to be in the town. So it creates this tiny little donut hole that really messes with our OCD as planners. So we have worked for 2.5, 3 years. Some of the fine residents on Fripp Lane, one is here tonight as well. They have been just amazing to work with. They've been trying to talk to their neighbors. Unfortunately, we only got 13 of the 15. But one of the incentives and how this started was Mr. Huntsinger called me and said, hey, Fripp Lane, this portion is in bad shape. We're going to resurface, but I'm not going to be able to touch this portion. What about, trying to petition for them to annex? So we're here tonight with 13. We were hoping for 15. As those two in that do not have colors on the map, as they change ownership, we will attempt to get them to come into the town as well. So here's the existing zoning in purple showing you the R20, and then you can see that SF4 all around it, which is what the color will change to. And then the future land use had it set out as medium density residential. So the consistency findings. The proposed UDO amendments consistent with the following goals of the comprehensive plan. Community engagement goal number 1, annexing and rezoning the parcel to an Indian Trail zoning classification provides an additional opportunity for the town to communicate, collaborate, and provide services to citizens, which will further help support the initiative to refine our jurisdictional lines. This rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest because it continues the same land use and zoning classifications within an area of town that is compatible with the surrounding uses. It's also consistent with our adopted plans. And the requested action before you tonight, you do have 3 motions that we do need of you, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Yeah, Martha.
So the 2 houses that 2019 and 2025, the town does not currently provide any trash services or anything for these 2 houses, correct?
That's correct. Now, these 13, once they're annexed, we've already talked with Mr. McLam, and they'll be serviced by Friday,
Okay.
if this is approved.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I don't think so. Brandy, is anybody here from?
Just myself.
Okay, you're here. Did you want to, so we didn't have anybody sign up for,
To speak.
I don't
No,
think.
we already had signed it up.
Okay,
earlier.
all right. I meant for tonight. We have nobody signed up to speak. Okay. So can I get a motion to open and close public comments?
Motion to open and close public hearing.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. So let's close the portion of the public hearing. Did we have any, I don't really think there's any council deliberation on this. With that being said, can I get some motions?
I'll make a motion to approve annexation ordinance number 168.
All in favor? Unanimous.
I'll also make a motion to approve ZM 2023-0110, the zoning map amendment request ZM 2023-0110 for Fripp Lane and Brandon Oaks, ordinance number 390 as presented.
All in favor? Unanimous.
And then the last motion, a motion to approve the consistency findings as read into the record by staff for ZM 2023-0110.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you,
Welcome
sir.
to Indian Trail.
We're not going to pave in front of their houses.
Okay, that brings us to old business. Room shelter reservation process, Mr. Kramer.
Thank you, Bobby. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, I'm going to just present some statistics for you and giving you some updates, positive changes that we've kind of made throughout the fiscal years as it relates to facility rentals. So we have 2 of our staff back here, Tabitha, who is our current rec specialist, Sam, who is our former rec specialist. Now handles all of our marketing and all the nice graphics. So I'll give her all the credit for these. I gave her chicken scratch, and she presented something that looks fantastic. So our records date back to fiscal year 15. So this is when I first joined the town. I was the first rec specialist at the time. We were literally doing things with pen and paper. So we would get a request in, it would be chicken scratch. I'd send 6 emails, they'd all bounce back because 7s looked like L's and we didn't know who we were talking with. Hearing that, we felt that there was a necessity to kind of upgrade our system. At the time, again, we couldn't take any sort of electronic payment. The accuracy of records wasn't there, and we only had 2 distinct rental times, a morning time from 8 to 2, and then a 3 to 9 time frame. Many of you know you don't really want to hang out for a birthday party for 6 hours on a Saturday. You know, even though the park's a great place to be, 6 hours is quite lengthy. As we moved along, we implemented a new rec software. So many of you have participated in events, maybe rented fields, maybe rented rooms through the Lions Club and things of that nature. So you understand that now we can do business 24 hours a day. We can take payments directly online. We don't have to send checks. We don't have to stop by town hall if we don't choose to. As we move forward, following, and hearing community response, we really felt that we needed to introduce 3 rental block times. So a morning, afternoon, and evening, instead of just the 2 rental times. That allowed us to do a couple things. Service, again, 50% more per shelter per day. And then in fiscal year 18, we also opened the town hall rooms that you see downstairs. After a year, when we first opened the town hall, we were only reserving to residents. The rooms weren't as widely used as we were hoping, so we opted to expand that out and allow non-residents to use the rooms as well. One thing that we would find too is a non-resident would call in, says, "Hey, I want to host grandma's birthday party." We said, "Are you a resident?" They say, "No." 10 minutes later, they call back and say, "Guess what? I'm a resident. Here's my address." So they would either call their mom or the grandma. We had people use the library address, the park address, the town hall address. So our policy and our practices weren't really being upheld. So fast forward, fiscal year 2021, COVID kind of put a little damper on things, shut down the building, shut down a lot of the park facilities, but gave us a true opportunity to take a step back, evaluate what we were doing. At that time, we did a couple things. We removed the deposit fee for the rooms. It was cumbersome for ourselves, it was cumbersome for finance, and just creating a lot of unnecessary paperwork and unnecessary time for all staff. We also adjusted the kitchen rate to a flat rate. So if you can imagine 8-hour rental using the kitchen was $30 an hour when we first started. You'd have a $250 kitchen rental fee to grab some ice. So now with a straight flat rental fee, no matter if you were cooking, a full Thanksgiving dinner in there or just grabbing ice, it was more obtainable for folks. As we move forward now into fiscal year 23, we've introduced shelters along the way. So whether it's the all-inclusive shelter, whether it's the splash pad shelter previously, we've introduced different rental amenities. So right now, for the first time, we're offering the whole splash pad rental in the evening on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, which is a bit of a draw. And then we've also just revamped things on our website, whether it be signage, park maps, and then introducing signs that are out at the park as well. So one of the things that our goal is to have a full encompassing customer service feel for what we do. A lot of times people go out to the parks, they're invited to a birthday party, they're out there and they say, man, this is a great place for my child. I think people are also getting smarter that they don't have to clean up their house before, during, and after a party if they use our facility. Moms and dads really appreciate that, speaking from a fellow dad. So one thing that we try and do is give them as much information as possible. So when they go online, you see some of the things on the screen. They see what the shelter looks like, so an actual current dated picture. What's out there, tables, chairs, electricity, and things of that nature. Then you see an email, it's a form email, but it's changed every time, instructing them on their next steps. The bottom left picture is what you see is our A-frame sign. So if you were to go out to the park, try and sit at the shelter, you are aware of the shelter is being reserved. And then one thing that we do after all our shelter rentals is take a look at our surveys. I'm a little bit of a numbers junkie, so I like kind of digging into some of those stats. And that's where a lot of times we learn what we can do better. I love a good 5-star review. I hate the 1-star, but those 1 stars give us that opportunity to get a little bit better. So this is a current heat map, and I thank the planning staff for helping me with this. One of the objects that I try and do, and we try and do as a department, is live out our master plan. Part of that was reintroducing ourselves and telling our story and meeting new folks to service. The hope was that this map would come back and show us maybe where we're not hitting and serving the community. Unfortunately, it comes back hot as a red chili pepper, and gives us all the areas that we're hitting in town. I think we're doing a great job. So with that, again, here are some rental stats and figures. As you can see, the blue relates to our shelters. The pink relates to our town hall rooms. So you see a steady upward trend. Again, you take out those COVID years because, again, when the governor's telling you can't open a facility, it's hard for our numbers to trend upwards. But every single year we're trending upwards, which I think is a kudos to our staff. We love having folks come out there and have repeat visitors. One thing that we realized is that our shelters are ever more popular. So one thing that we've done in the past, especially at the shelters, and again, I give staff a lot of credit to this, is we were seeing folks reserve a shelter, maybe in January, February, and our current practice, or our previous practice, was that we'd ask for payment to be made 2 weeks beforehand. So you could have a shelter, you could have that permit in your possession, and not make payment for weeks or months. Fast forward to 2 weeks before your shelter rental, and someone says, you know what, we're actually just going to have it at Grandma's house, or we're going to have it at Chuck E. Cheese. So that gives us a very limited window to then fill that shelter within 2 weeks. And what it does is those people that we've told, no, that's not available, no, that's not available, no, that's not available, we actually could have hosted them. So I think for kudos to staff, we've realized that when someone asks to rent the shelter, it all starts with that permit. We then walk through, we issue them that permit, and then we ask both for our rooms and our shelters that payment be made within 1 week's time. So kind of walking you through what our process looks like when someone makes that ask. If the room is, and we'll kind of stay on the left side here, if a facility is not available, we give them a call. Sometimes this is going to be a pretty easy thing and say, hey, you were looking for the morning time. The morning's not available, but what about the afternoon? Or maybe, hey, the medium room downstairs isn't available, but what about the large Shirley Howe community room? If we can come to a date, time, location that works, we'll go and issue the permit. If by chance we can't, we'll kind of keep it to the side. If that becomes available, we'll give them a call and say, hey, this is now available. Are you interested? If someone is able to submit an application, and again, this is a lot of times they call in, staff talks with them and say, yes, this Saturday, this time, this place is available. They'll submit that application, and we'll walk through with them. We'll issue the permit and then ask that within 1 week's time they make payment. A lot of times they do. A lot of times they're human, and if you're anything like me, you have good intentions, and then you forget. So what staff does is they'll go through and say, hey, don't forget, it's been a week's time, don't forget to make your payment. If they don't make the payment, a lot of times what we hear is, hey, you know what? We were just kind of putting some feelers out there. We reserved a couple different places. We don't need yours anymore. We're going to go to Chuck E. Cheese. No big deal. We'll take that permit out of the system, open it back up to the public. We're not due any money. We don't blacklist them. They can come back anytime they so choose. If by chance they miss their 1 week window, again, that reminder email is sent out. If by chance we don't hear that from them, again, emails get lost, cars break down, business trips happen, we leave that permit in the system. What that allows us to do is hold that date for them, again, because maybe the paycheck's coming in later, maybe they popped all 4 tires, and they need the funds to go elsewhere. The only time that we're going to remove that permit is if someone else, after that week's time, expresses interest in the same date. At that point, what we're going to do is we're going to make a phone call or send an email, make one last-ditch effort to say, hey, you're past your week. You've passed your reminder email. You haven't communicated with us. You have a final deadline of the next 24 hours to make payment. If they don't, we have the ability to remove their permit from their system and issue it to the new person. We don't do it to get anybody. We don't do it to focus on the $40 that we're collecting for the shelter rental. We do it to serve the general community. So ultimately, that's our goal, is to make sure that our facilities are being utilized. And ultimately, I think they are. So just some general figures. Our 2 most popular amenities are the large room downstairs, the Shirley Howe Community Room, and then the Splash Pad Shelter. So making some assumptions from January 1st through August 13th, so Sunday essentially, the large community room, based on a Saturday and Sunday, is occupied 85.7% of the time, and the Splash Pad Shelter is at 98.5%. So what that means to us is people, A, want to use the facility. B, we have a lot of repeat folks coming through, which means that our staff, not only here, but our part-time staff that's so vital out of the park, is doing their job. Adam and his public works crew are pressure washing shelters, making sure bathrooms are clean and accessible. And then it makes us know that what we're doing with our process, people want to come back and they're happy with that. So I'm happy to report those numbers. I think our staff is doing a fantastic job. And ultimately, the changes that we're making in some practices are to make sure that folks are out there. Again, we're human, they're human, things happen. So if they need a little extra time to make payment, as long as they're communicating with us, we're okay with that, and we'll work with them to the best of our ability. So I know that this has come up. I know that we are scores above where we were previously. We're hitting records every single fiscal year that we're hosting rentals. So just kind of wanted to give you all an update, as this is a very public-facing way that folks are using the facilities. So, any questions?
Is the Cliff Notes version of this online where people can actually rent the shelter? I mean, in other words, applications online, or they have to call in? what's the best way to do it?
Either or. So,
Okay.
we interface with the customer the way that's easiest for them. Sometimes people want to come in, want to see face to face or see the room. Sometimes people are perfect with seeing that photo online. So yes, they can apply online. They could never physically actually talk with us. Everything can be done via email if they so choose.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Hayden, just want to commend you and your staff on the job that you guys do, including the improvements for the reservation process. I remember when the parks were opening and how things were, plus having to wait 2 years for grass to grow over there. I remember that period too. But the thing is, the things that you guys do or people who do not live in Indian Trail, the very first contact, or I want to say the very first impression they get of the town is when they come to either the ballparks or they come to a party or the splash pad or something that, somebody's using that. So that you guys get a real good opportunity to make a first impression. And I want to say that you all are doing you and your team, you all are doing a really good job, and please keep it up.
Well, absolutely. I appreciate it. And again, our staff is very front-facing, very customer service-driven. So when someone comes in to rent a shelter and they talk with Tabitha, they say, oh, it's their third birthday party. Tabitha's next comment is, well, did you know we had summer camps for 3-year-olds? Or, oh, man, you're new to the area. What do you like? Do you have a dog? Let me tell you about your dog park. And then Sam Ropes, comes in and says, hey, why don't you follow us on social media? Here's a week at a glance and everything that we have going on for them. So I appreciate that, but truly a fantastic team behind me that's just stellar. So thank you all.
Thank you, Hayden. Next, IT Street Phase Road Acquisition, Todd, if you would, Mr. Hunsinger. And Mr. Hunsinger, if you would, I think Miss Kinley? Right. After you speak up here, Todd, would you go speak with them? They had some questions for me, and I told them you would be the expert, or did you already answer them?
I have not.
Okay, so you were actually sitting beside him the whole time, and I didn't see him, so
Yeah, I was
apologize.
wondering why they were there, and I was like, they didn't leave with the other neighborhood, so I was kind of curious. But no, I'll get with them. All right, we've got a few items to talk about tonight that involves engineering, and I blame the council for not getting an extra meeting in August for this, so I'm going to try not to screw this up because there's a lot to talk about. So this item is obviously for the Indian Trail Complete Street right-of-way acquisition phase of the project, which we are currently in. What the memo stated, and I'm sure you read it, basically the initial design that was given to the right-of-way consultant only showed 43 parcels being impacted, and due to minor design changes, it's increased it to 52. And so we have to do a supplemental agreement for that additional parcel work effort. So I'm asking the council to approve a supplemental agreement for $72,000 and $72,750. Any questions? All right, also there'll be another vote after you vote that to amend the CIP ordinance for this change amount. So I need 2 votes.
Okay, can I
Please.
get a motion?
Crystal, we waiting on you.
Oh, I'm a motion girl, sorry, okay. I will make a motion to approve the supplemental agreement number 1 with Telix for the right-of-way acquisition in the amount of $72,750 and the capital project ordinance number 036 for Indian Trail Road Complete Street as presented.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Okay, and then the second motion is to amend the CIP?
Correct.
All right, so do I need to repeat all that or just say, I just want to make sure I'm doing it correctly?
Well, she did it in one vote. Does she need to do it in a separate vote? Are you okay with all one?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I think we're fine then.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
thinking it was together, but wanted to make sure.
Thank you, Crystal.
You're welcome.
Okay, Todd?
All right, our next agenda item is our Chestnut Square Park update. All right, as you've been told, previous meetings, we're basically wrapping up design. We got a little bit to go, but We have started having conversations with the county. We did a sketch plan review through them, got kind of the standard boilerplate language that obviously there's no sewer and you have no guarantee of getting sewer. So we're trying to, based on that and what I'm going to talk about, we're going to try to make a change to the schedule. So just wanted to point this out. The CIP ordinance, this is how it states it in case people don't know in the audience. You have 5 funding sources, and that's how they're broken down. Capital reserve, $2,007,000. General fund is $3,143,000. Park bond is $1,850,000. Stormwater is $250,000, and our state grant is $250,000 for a total of $7.5. All right, I'd forgotten about this, and so I wanted to just bring this up real quick. The manager did a study, meaning if you remember, Land Design was contracted out to look at all the properties the town owned around town. And of course, this property was part of that study. And as you can see, based on what we're trying to design is loosely based pretty much on this study. And this was done in 2021. I believe it's June 2021. So this is kind of so people can see in the audience and y'all can see on y'all's monitors better. It's kind of just a zoom in approach. And as you can see, the parking lot area, which is right here, that was a concept. It shows 70 parking spaces. And of course now, as you'll see here in a minute, we've actually got it to 92 parking spaces, which is good. So just wanted to reiterate that as a history lesson. So this is what you've got as a design right now. This is basically a final design the concept layout, well, not concept, but site layout. All right, so due to the fact that we've got that comment letter back from the county, we've kind of talked with them, talked to the building code folks, and unfortunately, they are interpreting the building code differently and the plumbing code differently than what our consultants think. So we are actually in active negotiations right now with them, not negotiations, but discussions to see what we can do about that. And I'll give you an example. So right now, just the field itself, and that's not people standing there watching people on the field. This is people actively playing on the field. The way the code is being interpreted right now, the town would have to build 16 toilets for women and 9 toilets for men. And that's not counting anything else. So again, we obviously have a problem because we did not, and we basically mirrored the previous park infrastructure as far as restrooms. And so it's going to take some time to get this worked out. And so unfortunately, we can't even submit a set of drawings to the building department or the county's water and sewer department until we straighten it out. So schedule-wise, it's going to lag. And what I've been told by council and the manager is on all projects, you push the schedule. So I'm pushing the schedule as best I can. So what I would like to do, and what I've talked to other staff members in town, and we've kind of conferred, met with, and strategize on how we can sit there and move forward while we're still, in these discussions with the county is, see, once we figured out exactly how many fixtures we actually got to build, then we have to submit. Well, that could take 2, 3, 4 months. I mean, we could be, I'll be honest with you, we'd be in Thanksgiving waiting on an approval from the county. So in order to keep the project moving forward, we want to phase it. Well, we're going to phase it. We're going to phase it in two phases. You have phase 2A and phase 2B, and I'll walk you through it. All right, so you look on your screen. Phase 2A is going to be building parking, and that is what we need, right? Everybody knows it. We all need parking out there. It's been talked about for probably the last 5 years that I know of. We need the parking. So we're going to build the parking. We're going to build in a separate contract. It's going to be phase 2A. So you're going to build that parking you see on the screen highlighted right now. You're going to build the on-street parking along the roadway that mirrors the volleyball parking. And then we're going to move the detention pond because that wet pond right now is not in compliance. When I say that, meaning it needs to be cleaned out, and it also doesn't have a vegetated setback. And what I mean by that is you're supposed to have a vegetation shelf along the perimeter of your pond. And what that does is it helps filter, contaminants, nutrients, sediment, anything like that. And then also it makes it a buffer to discourage geese from getting in the water. And we don't have that. And also, when this thing is done in final phase, we'll actually have plantings in there to where it will promote dragonflies to actually eat up the mosquitoes. And so you don't have a mosquito haven out there as well. The fountain will help that, obviously, but you also want to back up when it comes to that, and we need to do that. So we still want to move the pond and get that into a different location. Again, we were going to have to rehab that pond eventually anyway, so we might as well go ahead and do it now. All right, and then on the green is we'll go out there and we'll rough grade that area where the field is supposed to go. We'll just rough grade it, overseed it and we'll wait. Now, there's a possibility we don't get sewer. I mean, and we can't build the rest of the park. But at today's prices, we need to build what we can build now. And so we need the parking, we need to move the pond, and then whatever happens after that, it's really out of my control. But all right, so I want to zoom in a little bit just to kind of show you what we've got right now. So we've got 6 parking places that we're going to build towards right in front of the playground. We're going to build 13 in front of the actual parking place that's going to be on the street. We're going to take that island out. There's an island out there that obviously doesn't give you a lot of room. That island will be removed. That'll be all pavement. That way you can get in and out of the 90-degree parking area of the 13 spots shown right now. Then you're going to build the parking lot, which is 92, like I just said a while ago. And then you'll come over here, and you're going to build 47 parking spots along there. So you got 158 parking spots. That's double what the concept showed. All right, then like I said, you're going to build a pond. Now the pond won't be in permanent phase because we'll be waiting to see if we can build the other phase. But for some reason they say, well, we don't have sewer, and we're this basic area is going to sit for 2-3 years and not be built. Well, then we're going to put in permanent phase in because we're not going to wait around for it. But right now we can't do that with phase 2A. So it'll be in basically a sediment basin phase until we get an answer from the county. All right, so basically the breakdown of the task for phase 2A will be build all the parking except, if you go back, that parking area on the side of your screen that's kind of cut out, that won't be, I think that was like 20 parking spaces, no, or 13 or something. Anyway, that won't be, or do I have that on the, sorry, I have that on the screen, don't I? 23, sorry. See, told you, long night. All parking areas except for the 23 spots on the east end will be built. Relocate the wet pond, do all the walking trails. I think we can get them all in without disturbing them after the fact, but I can't guarantee that right now. And then sidewalk paths, we'll build all the sidewalks around the parking lot areas and on the on-street parking along the street, so everybody has access walking-wise. And then you rough grade the rest of the site, you seed it. Heck, it'll be a flat area. You might actually can use it for something if you just can't do anything with it. But what we can't do is we can't ask for an irrigation system out there because that's tied into sewer. And so it's just not feasible. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Why move the pond now? Why don't we wait until we for sure can build the field?
Well, to me, you're maximizing your property. I mean, you want look. Who knows what's going to happen to you? If you wait in 2 or 3 years, well, you got another whole council in here. They may want something totally different, but at least you're maximizing the property where you can do something with it more than what you can do right now where that pond is at. That's my intention. It's just to maximize property. That's all.
Why do the cost of moving the pond if you don't know what you can build there? I mean, just
right.
It's kind of a.
Well, you got to upgrade the pond. So we got to dig out that pond, upgrade it anyway. So you're going to cost you $100,000 just to rehab the pond. So why not spend an extra $100 just to move it and to maximize your properties? I guess is my thinking.
Now, is this the detention pond where at one point we were talking about putting a structure over it And
Right, yeah, that was the one we were going to do underground.
So
and
the
unfortunately, that
propagandists
was-
are still spreading around that we're going to spend $7 million on a soccer field. Well, that's not the truth, is it?
No, the $7.5 million would have been if we tried to do underground and everything. That was based on that whole.
So that, I mean,
budget.
they should even, I mean, they're just out telling something that's not true. So what do you think it would, you have any idea what it would cost now if you're going to redo the detention pond to go ahead and move it? What's it going to cost for the soccer field now? Do you have just a wild guess?
Well, because the way they, I couldn't do that because of the way the third-party consultant did their estimate. They did a lot of lump sums. But my feeling is you're going to use your park bond up.
Right.
To 1.8, and you're going to use your stormwater up, and you're going to use your state grant.
Right.
And
So it's not going to be anywhere near $7 million.
No, until we know about the county and the sewer issue, no, it's going to be less than half of that.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, thank you.
Or right at, oh, well, yeah, less than half of that, yes, that's correct.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Tom.
Where do you intend on putting that pond? Moving it. We're moving that pond.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
we
well, I
intend
mean,
on
it's,
putting
where it's laid out now is where it's going to go. Right now, it's kind of in this area. So it's taken up a
Oh,
third
you're
of this
scooting it
field.
over.
We're just scooting it over
Okay.
and upgrading it, and that's all we're doing.
Thank you.
And we're not putting plantings in or anything else as of right now, again, until we know the county. And so, sorry, Marcus, let me say one more thing. I think actually this might be a good thing for the town as far as pricing is because when you price this out all together with a contractor, a lot of times it's a contractor that subs a lot of the work out because he's there to build structures or to build a field, and he's subbing out asphalt, concrete, and all that. Well, now phase 2 is basically parking lot. It's asphalt, concrete, and it's grading. So now you're going to get a horizontal contractors, like what I like to call them. They don't do vertical work. So price-wise, to me, is actually might get bidded as competitive as got bidded just all together. Because now you just got a grading guy going to bid this project now, not a total park. Does that make sense? So money-wise, I think you're losing on that account. But go ahead, Marcus.
So you're saying that right now the pond is not in compliance. We do
Correct.
need to bring it into compliance.
Correct.
And if we're going to do that, we might as well move it to gain space, which we need.
Right.
And do these other things, including adding the parking and stuff. And once the county decision comes, then the level of effort needed. In other words, it wouldn't be any horizontal drainage. It'd just be, sorry, that's what you said. It wouldn't be any vertical. You
It
said?
wouldn't be any vertical.
Just really
Yeah, because
horizontal.
you build anything vertical out there, you got to go to the building department. And we obviously can't do that because what we're going to do it, we're going to submit the plans, the second phase, while we're bidding this out and doing all that. So, but I just don't have any idea when we're going to get an actual definite answer from
So
the
you're
county.
saying we should walk and chew gum at the same time?
Correct. You need to maximize the weather you got right now, the pricing that you should get right now. Go ahead and build it now, and you can build this stuff in the wintertime. It's
So that's your professional recommendation?
That would be my recommendation if you want to keep the project moving.
All right.
If you don't, that's fine too. I don't have any problems with that either.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
So you've saved us $7 million, right?
Well, right now, yes, but but again, I don't know what the price is going to come out to be once we, bid out phase 2, B. Okay.
Is that going to affect the boardwalk, how it was going to go, or is that going to?
Well, we're going to have to build the piers for the boardwalk right now while we build the pond.
Does it affect the design?
No, it don't affect the design, but we can't go too far with that because then again it becomes it's still a structure in itself.
Well, that makes sense. Do you need the boardwalk if you move the?
It makes life easier to at least do the piers right now while you got a hole dug with no water in it. That's the kicker.
So,
It can be built after the fact, but you're going to pay a premium for it.
okay. Well, I didn't know if you moved the pond, you wouldn't need the boardwalk, which would be or it would be less
Well,
expensive.
it's kind of in between the parking lot and
Right.
the field, so.
It is nice. It's a nice thing, but I just wondered about that. And
Yeah, well, we're actually moving forward with that design. So I mean,
Okay.
if somebody unless somebody tells me different, that's
I'm not. I just wondered if it moved it or if it.
okay. No, it's not going to affect it. No.
Okay. Next question would be, and I know this is not in your control, but we have a soccer field out there just like that. When we have other facilities out there, and we don't have 16. We don't need all these bathrooms. What,
Well,
is this a?
I don't know. I mean, I'll give you an example because I just know it right off the top of my head. We got construction plans back from Matthews Sportsplex. Now, granted, that's in Mecklenburg County. It's not Union County. But 4 multipurpose fields. So 4 of these, 4 of them. 9 toilets for women, 3 toilets for men, and 2 urinals for men. And we can't even get that for 1 field with no viewing. So I don't know what's going on, and it's going to take time to figure it out, unfortunately.
Well, there's a lot going on there, and I'm sorry to hear that. That looks like there's a wrench thrown in the.
Yeah, and I don't know when it's going to get resolved, and that's why, it's going to get pushed into the wintertime and holidays, and then, of course, if it gets in the holidays, you're not going to bid anything out till first of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that way, and if we get the sewer, we can't even guarantee that, so, unfortunately.
So if you did start, and you clean that land off and did that, when would you start that? When would you?
Well, the plan is to bid this out 1st September. We'll advertise, get contractor on board in October, and start work.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything you need else?
No,
Is
just
that
an
just
update.
FYI? Is
That's
that-
just an update to the project.
All right.
Unless y'all want to do something else. I mean, this is just our direction.
Any comment? No? I guess no comment from council, so. I'm assuming that means council keep moving forward. Not ahead.
Yep.
All right.
All right, next item is CEI services for our ARPA Stormwater Improvements Project. Obviously, this is ARPA's federal funds, and unfortunately, because they're federal funds, we do have to have a third-party CEI service out there to manage the project, manage the day-to-day field aspect of the project. And so we did an RFQ to get those services. We actually did an RFQ for multiple projects because I got a couple of others coming down the line. But we selected a couple firms and we picked AMT Engineering Incorporated to take on this task of the project, on this particular project. And so I'm asking the council to approve a contract for $91,949.44. Now, I will tell you, we probably won't spend all that money, but unfortunately in CEI services, you have to kind of estimate how many hours the guy's going to be out there for that life of the project. And so you have to be a little conservative in that, so you don't have to come back to council and ask for supplemental agreements later on. I don't think we'll spend that much, but unfortunately we have to be conservative in our numbers. Any questions? And
I'll make the motion, no more questions.
Okay.
well, also then we'll have to have another motion or do a combined motion to amend the ARPA ordinance because this will be added to that. Thank you.
Can I make this first motion, or I gotta make another one?
Well, no, just make this one first and then you can have somebody else do the other one.
I didn't want to step ahead of you there. A motion to approve CEI consultant contract with AMT Engineering for ARPA stormwater improvement projects in the amount of $91,949.44 and the ARPA grant project ordinance number 037 as presented.
All in favor? Unanimous.
All right, thank you, council. Mayor.
Mr. McLam, ARPA update. Todd, don't forget about the question back there in the corner.
How are y'all this evening? So really quick, I'm going to do an ARPA update. I'm going to kind of give a little bit of background information just to kind of keep everybody up to date and refreshed on where we're at with ARPA. The PowerPoint, yep. Perfect. All right, so if y'all remember, back when we first started talking about ARPA, we talked about 5 buckets. These are those 5 buckets. If you remember, the group that's there on the bottom is really where, as a town government, we were able to act within. The main one that we've done the most acting on, besides which I'll just approve some of for Todd, which is in that infrastructure budget, is that replacement replacement lost revenue bucket. And if you remember, that's the $10 million. That's what we, council chose to allot to that bucket. That was the max that we could. We then chose to use those funds to pay for the sheriff's office for 2.5 years. That would be FY23 and FY24, and then it would be about a half a year of those funds in FY25. So if we talk about FY23, that's what we've talked about for the last year. Just to give you a pretty quick update on a few projects that are still outstanding. The fire trucks are scheduled to be here. We were thinking the end of Q3. Now they're telling us sometime mid Q4, and that's even changed since when I send out the Trina sent out the council packet. I did the memo. Emerald Woods Waterline, we did get great news from the county the other day at the last county commissioners meeting. They did approve the engineering study consultant for that project. So that project, again, is back on track and moving forward. They now have what they needed for that project. Cameron's House of Hope and the Park and Rec Department, both of their buses should be here by the end of August. I know Hayden and the rest of Park and Rec are very excited to have a bus that they can do some new interesting things. And then the sheriff's office, I want to give y'all an update about the generator up on top of the building. Been in contact with Captain Hunky a couple of times, also trying to get some information out with Abby. The sheriff's office and public works facility up there is scheduled to go down this Friday. It'll go down Friday about 11 o'clock. They won't have any power in the building until, we're saying, about 5 o'clock on Monday. We hope it's a little bit before then. We will run all of the sheriff's office IT equipment and the phone system on a backup generator while we put a backup generator in place. So they will at least have that service. So just so everybody knows, that's where that's going. So it'll actually be up and operational sometime in the next week or so. This building is lagging a little bit behind that just due to some other things. So now let's talk about FY24. So in FY24, for those funds, after we paid for the rest of the fire trucks and then also some other funds that were already allotted for the building up on top of the hill, council chose a path forward of $1.9 million for a community center, a little bit more than that, and then a call for projects. We are in the middle of that call for projects right now. Y'all actually heard a group this evening that was requesting some of those funds. To date, we have 6 projects that have actually submitted. We haven't reviewed any of these, but these are what we have right now. We have 6 projects. Of those 6 projects, they are requesting $925,000 roughly. We have 334 available. And we know of 3 other projects that have talked to us but haven't officially submitted yet. And I don't know how many more there are that may come in the next 20 days because the call for projects is open until the 30th of this month. So that's kind of where we are with FY24, the call for projects and everything. A couple of things. Councilmember Barber, you were correct tonight when you made the statement about a rough number for the water line project for Moore Park being roughly about the same amount as the existing project that we're doing. That's why that number is $925,000. Councilmember McIntyre?
I would estimate we would probably have to use some here and probably do funding from other source would be my guess.
Right,
If we did
but
that.
right now, that's what
Okay.
I'm just
Yeah,
using a
makes
very
sense. Thank you.
round number. Earlier you asked that we reach out to the county to get an actual estimate on the project, and we will do that. We've already let them know that the project may be forthcoming. Tomorrow, we'll make an official request for an estimate from them. So that'll give us a little bit more of an update on what that number may be. Over the next probably 2 weeks, we'll start meeting again as an ARPA committee internally, and we'll start vetting some of those projects, asking questions of them that we need to, so that our goal right now as an ARPA committee is to bring back all projects to you for a full funding in September. So whatever that'll be, y'all's meeting in September, you will get all the projects to be funded. That's all I got.
Thank you, Adam. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, so now we'll move on to Highway 74 beautification and mowing. Just a little bit of information about Highway 74 and how we've talked about it in the past. Roughly in the town limits, it's made up of 4 miles. Roughly, there are 4 key intersections. Those are the ones that we are looking at right now for potentially for street lighting. And then there are also some other intersections. One of those is Chestnut Parkway, Hayes Road, Chambers Drive on the far end of town. So there are some other intersections in there, but they're not those initial 4 key intersections. And just for purpose, the speed limit on the road is 55. I would say Captain Hunky wishes more people would drive 55 out there.
I got to do a lot of work.
As we talked about Highway 74, what we have discussed is kind of 3 main areas. We've talked about welcome signs, we've talked about streetlights, and we've talked about mowing. I'll give you a pretty quick update on streetlights. I have a meeting scheduled this Thursday with Duke Energy to start on the redesign for the 4 key intersections and for the full roadway length, so we'll be able to get those cost estimates. But what we're mainly going to talk about tonight is mowing. So if we look at mowing, NCDOT will mow around town 0 to 5 times a year. I know that sounds crazy to say 0, but I say 0 because mowing is considered something that they like to do. It's not something that they have to do. They have to pave potholes. They have to, build new capacity. They don't have to mow. So if their funding gets cut, that's the first thing that gets cut is mowing. So that's why we say 0 to 5 in that cycle. We've reached out to 6 other municipalities. 5 have answered us. And also we reached out to 2 potential vendors. Of those municipalities that we reached out to, 5 of them mow themselves on roads like Highway 74 or other roads within their municipality. 2 of them do some division of that, and they do some mowing themselves and some contract work. 4 of them do that as a supplement to NCDOT. So what I mean by that is they let NCDOT continue to mow their whatever number they're going to mow a year, and then they mow whatever they want to mow. All 5 of the municipalities that we reached out to mow their rights of way bi-weekly, which that's what we as staff do today on all the roads that we mow. So if you see down there at the other information down there at the bottom, the town right now with our public works guys, they mow about 14 lane center miles of roads around town. And most of those are on NCDOT roadways today. Average cost that we got between all of the municipalities and the contractors that we reached out to mow a mile of roadway, yes, you aren't reading that number wrong, $21,500 a year. So you can do the math and you can come up with what the numbers would be.
I thought you were going to say that per event.
Well, Matthews, it's interesting you say that. Matthews did reach out to a vendor. They wanted to mow the bulbs at Highway 74 and 51, and then mow Highway 74, and they told them a little over $30,000 an event.
For what? For how many times is that?
One time, $30,000 one time.
This is average, so $87,000 a year.
Right. So really, this is where we're at.
So at 4 miles, 21, that's 80,000 a year, and how many times do we mow for that cost?
Bi-weekly?
So if you did it bi-weekly, that would not be for bi-weekly. That would be for 4 to 5 times a year. So you really wouldn't get the look of what you're looking for. You could almost double or triple that number.
Because we got 4 miles on 74, so we're looking at 80,000 to mow 5 times a year.
Yep.
Okay.
At a minimum. So really what we come down to is we have two options we can start looking at now. We can continue to look at well, actually you got three options. One, you can do nothing. You can stay with what you have today, which DOT mows 0 to 5 times a year, and it is what it is. You have the option of we can look at some contracted services with having a contractor come out and mow for us. Or we can look at, as I stated in the agenda packet, we could look at hiring a crew to do that ourselves. That's what most of the other municipalities do, is they have a crew of 2, 3, 4 people and a couple of pieces of equipment, and they do that mowing. I will say our recommendation from a staff-wise is to head more in that direction. You have a lot more control. You're able to, if you don't like that it's only being mowed twice bi-weekly, if you think it needs to be, the key intersections need to be mowed every week, that crew can make that happen. That doesn't happen if you have a contract. You pay more every time they go out there and mow, you're going to pay more every time. But really, we're just looking for direction from council tonight, which way we want to go. One thing I did miss when I was doing the presentation, we had asked the question, I think somebody had brought it up about insurance and liability and what that would be. Worked with Carrie and HR. We reached out to our vendor. I don't know even know what the right name is to use. And they said that it is no increase in our insurance premiums. They just ask that we do all the safety measures to mow in a safe manner.
Any questions?
I'll open it up to questions.
Mr. Amberg?
So if we're talking, say we mow it 15 times a year, we're talking $250,000 plus.
You could start looking in that
Right,
ballpark,
and if we
yes.
do,
I didn't, sorry to interrupt, but I did not reach out to a vendor and say, how much would it cost if you mowed 15 times a year? Because what happens to us, and this happens to Todd too, if we keep calling vendors to ask them questions, eventually they stop returning my phone call because I'm taking up time. You know, when you call food service company, you know, they, if you don't give them business, eventually they.
Yeah, and that town crew that we would employ, then we have to buy equipment.
We would have to.
And it's not cheap, right?
It's not. I mean, I could give you very rough numbers for what I think that would be, that we could start looking at. One thing that we could do with that crew that we've thought about is right now today, stormwater-wise, we use a stormwater maintenance contractor to do our channel cleaning in the winter time. This crew could do something like that in the wintertime, and you wouldn't have to contract for that work anymore as well. So during the non-growing season, they're not just going to be sitting around not having something to do. We would be able to utilize them in other areas.
Perfect.
We have the equipment to mow on 74, some of those deep.
Yep. So right now today, we have one tractor that we got last year. We would probably, if we were to look at doing this ourselves, we would need to purchase at least one more tractor. That would be what I would propose to start with. And you would be looking at 1 to 2 crew trucks to help run interference, you know, along the roadway and some signs, and then some other miscellaneous weed eaters and blowers and things like that.
So So it seems like other towns around us have already kind of done the legwork on this and showing us that the crew seems to be the way they're going, which more or less means it probably is going to be more beneficial to us. I mean, what are you thinking, like crew-wise? How many people? I mean, is it going to be part-time? Or are you thinking, I mean, just kind of getting an idea of what you're...
So we would propose potentially initially starting with probably 3 people. So one thing we don't like to do, even today, we run 4-man crews for everything that we do pretty much. We won't send a single person off to do a job. I don't want something to happen to that person, whether it's, you know, they fall in a hole and twist their ankle, or somebody runs up and hits them with a car. So we always send 2 people. So at a minimum, we would do a crew of 2 people to start with, probably more like 3, just so you always have coverage if, you know, somebody needs to take vacation or their dog, you know, needs to go to the vet or something like that. And then as the town grows, that would, you know, that crew would grow just like all of our other crews have grown.
Mr. Mayor, If there's no more questions, if the council would like to get some more information on this option, we would be glad to provide a cost estimate and bring it back to you at your September meeting if you feel like this might be the direction you want to go.
Mr. Mayor, I like the idea of the town crew. That's the direction that I am personally leaning in. So,
Everybody, agree? Town crew, need to go that way, to look at that.
I think so.
That's a good idea, estimate,
Yeah, I
Especially
think
if what we
everybody,
do
I
the
think
last
everybody agrees. I just have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I know we talked about more equipment. How much more manpower, or would it be more manpower? Would you have to hire more people? I would assume you would have to hire more people also.
Yes, we would definitely have to hire more people. Like I was saying, maybe probably starting with a 3-man crew, so you'd have, you know, three
You couldn't
three
do it-
new
we
men.
couldn't do it
No.
with the people that you have now because they're already.
And we
but
would
you-
also do some reshuffling
Yeah.
of some of the miles that our crews are mowing today. It's split between all of our crews. If you have a crew that's dedicated to mowing, you know, more to maintenance and that level, you may take some of that work from them, and that would free them up to do more pothole repairs or more work at the park or just different things.
Very good.
One thing you have to keep in mind too, when you take over something like this, is you're going to have added expenses of, I know Charlotte farms out their blade sharpening. There are a lot of expenses involved, like parts repairs and maintenance and that sort of thing. So, and then, you know, you got the added weight there of the benefit package with retirement, hospitalization, that sort of thing. That's usually about a 25% load on top of it. So, you know, it's when you really start looking at brass tacks, it may well be very close, whichever way you go.
And it might be, you know, that may be, I mean, that's a great thing to bring back the estimate, and then we can look at it. I will say either option that gets chosen, if either option gets chosen, would have to be an amendment to the budget, because there is not the money in this year's fiscal year's budget. I was looking for Jim, wherever he went, to do this today. You know, we just didn't account for this when we went through the FY24 budget.
I have one more request, I guess. Whenever you come back with your estimates, next meeting, can you also kind of show us what we might save if we farmed out some of the work to them versus contracted out during the off-season? I mean, just so we can kind of get a true
Yes,
picture.
if that crew is available to do that
Exactly,
work rather than contract, yes. Yep, yes, ma'am, we can do that.
Adam, thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Appreciate you. All right. All right, that brings us over to Rogers Road, Wesley Chapel intersection. Mr. Hunsinger.
All right, Mayor, Council, in the July meeting, we talked about the critical intersection program that the county puts together for all the surrounding municipalities. In that meeting, we discussed an intersection that was in that approved intersection in that report back in 2015-16, which is the Rogers Road Wesley Chapel intersection. I wanted to bring us back to y'all and to consider putting that into the list of possible ones that might get chosen for this round of intersection projects. Again, this was done in 2016, the estimate and the concept. As you see on the screen, the concept is to upgrade Rogers Road, Wesley Chapel, all the way from Treeside, which is across the street from the middle school, and then all the way down Rogers Road to the entrance of the elementary school, and then back towards the other way. And basically, you would be adding lanes. And like I told you before, unfortunately, Wesley Chapel widening project is is what they consider a holding tank project, and it's not a guarantee that's ever going to get approved. And it's because it's going against very competitive projects in the STIP. So we won't know that till next year. So again, all I'm asking for is head nods, but my consideration is maybe try to put this in there, see if this will get approved as far as in the STIP. And for some reason, West Chapel never happens, we might get this built before then. All you would need to spend is like we talked about last time, you just do a local match with the county. It would be $8,000 to do an initial, another update, concept / cost estimate. And we would have to pay $4,000 of that, $8,000. That basically gets you, that gives the county a submittal process where they can now submit that intersection to the STEP to see if it gets approved. Again, no guarantee. The county will be ranking and getting with the other municipalities on the other intersections that were on the list for this new report. It's not a guarantee that this one will get selected for the contribution. So really, you may spend $4,000, you may not. And I'll let y'all know that come September when we put the resolution up there, just like we did for this other intersection, the Idlewild one, for this meeting. So right now you have the intersection y'all agreed on last meeting, which is the Hayes Road, Oldman Road intersection for $4,000. You have that resolution, but you also have this one if you want to. Now, again, it's really up to y'all. I'm just presenting an opportunity. We don't have to do it. You don't want to do it. Any questions?
Any questions?
I hope that wasn't confusing.
Do
Sorry.
you need a nod of the head?
Just a nod ahead so we can put the resolution together and put it on the consent agenda next council meeting. That's all. If you're okay with 4K.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good. Appreciate it.
Okay, next, discussion and direction, space need studies for Public Works and Community Center, Mr. McLaurin.
Green Acres started at 9:30 for those of you who watch Green Acres, okay? I don't know if it's a good one or a bad one, so. All right, very quickly, you heard tonight when Jim did his presentation, I hoped you picked up that there were 7 capital projects that are currently underway. We've never had that much capital projects at one time, but they're all designed to address priorities that you have identified. From most of them being transportation, there's some park stuff in there, etc. But also, a couple years ago, Adams and his folks need new facilities. If you haven't been over there, come see us. We'd like to give you a tour. The town's growing. They need new facilities. We've been working on some stuff behind that. And you've graciously agreed to commit to $6.5 million over a 3-year period. We know that's not going to be enough. But perhaps the next step we want to do, both on this and a community rec center, is to look at doing a space needs study. How many square feet do we need in a public works facility? What kind of layout? This is not full-fledged architectural drawings. It's just kind of the 100,000-foot view so that we can then look at, all right, then based on construction costs, what kind of potential cost are we looking at? And so I wanted to get your guidance as to whether you want us to issue an RFP or RFPs for doing a space needs study for both a public works facility and a separate one for a community/recreation center.
McIntyre.
Yes, the town is growing. We have $38 million in approved projects for road projects. And we are actively in the process of taking over streets in town. The public works facility cannot handle that with the amount of workload. So yes, I would highly recommend that we begin that study to see what the space needs are. And hopefully that takes into the future growth.
Correct.
The town's growth may not necessarily be at the clip it was last year and so on and so forth. But the town will still see some growth, even if at a slower rate. The second thing is the town also just bought some land across the street. There is a growing need from many people within the town to have a community center that serves all citizens. So I think that's something to look at as well. As the town grows in terms of the staff that we add or the services we provide, and we know the Parks and Recs department does provide some really good services to our residents or our citizens here. I think we should look at that as well, because that could be something that, in a community center with land that we just recently acquired, I'll say that again, to be able to see what we can put there that can serve all citizens in, various, programs, but also quite possibly house some of the offices for the Parks and Rec Department, which I think kind of make sense from a logistics standpoint.
The Park and Rec staff is in very cramped space right now.
Yeah.
So.
So that would be, Mayor, that would be my 2 cents, if I can say that.
What type of cost are we talking?
Well, until we do an RFQ and look at a qualified person that could do the space needs study, I don't have a cost available.
So, public works facility, yeah, I'm for moving forward with that is because we really need to get them out behind the sheriff's office over here. And,
Yeah.
So that's a need, and we got $6 million already, and I know we're still talking land, so I think, yeah, that's a good idea. I don't know what we do at the community center because we're so new on that. What do we tell them to design? You know what I mean? It's like, would they come back with multiple different, you're looking at a $2 million facility or a $12 million facility, or will they design different?
Good question. It's no real design per se, and Todd Hunsinger is behind me, so if I start to make a mistake, he's going to come up here and correct me. It's basically a study of looking at what are our needs that we will have in a community center. What are some of the type services we want to offer or not offer, as the case may be. Looking collectively at other communities, what would be the normal square footage that we would want to look at? Just that sort of thing.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, it's not a design. It's just a need. What are your needs? And
Yes.
based on those needs, then future councils can act upon it and
Correct.
actually put out a design if they so choose.
Yes, this is typically the first step that you do on a new building, just like if you were building your own house. Well, what do we want in the house? Well, we want a kitchen, we want 2 bedrooms and whatever.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, can we get up, raise the hand or not, or who's in favor of that? Raise your hand.
Nodding of, I know it's late.
4 people, okay.
Okay.
5, okay.
Okay.
There you go, there you go. That's okay. So you got it there, Mike, thank you. Okay, it brings us to open and closed session minutes, land purchase dated, 02/14/23, 03/14/23, and 03/28/23, 4/25/23, and 06/13/23. And I need a motion to.
I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion to open redacted closed session minutes for dates 02/24/23, 03/14/23, 03/28/23, 04/25/23, and 06/13/23 regarding the purchase of the McGinnis property.
All in favor? Unanimous. All right, no discussion items, closed session, managers update.
All right, very quickly, you got the memo in your agenda package. I want to touch on a couple of items that I'm going to ask for head nodding on. So let's get with it. Just want to remind you, Chestnut Parkway, Phase 1 goes from Independence to Matthews Indian Trail Road. Phase 2 is going to be done by NCDOT. They're going to build a bridge over the railroad track, and it's going to go over to Gribble Road to the roundabout, and we're responsible for Phase 3, which goes from Gribble Road to Old Monroe Road, and you approved a right in, right out at that intersection until such time as Monroe Road is widened. We're probably ahead of the state on our part of Gribble Road, which is good. We are scheduled to put that out for bid this week, and we're going to be cutting trees probably in mid-October or so, if things go well, and probably plus or minus next summer we hope to have a road that goes from Gribble Road to Old Monroe Road. It's not a complete, but it's at least a way for people to get around. DOT, because of the tricolor bat, they will be cutting a bunch of trees to my right over here. That is their land, and they'll be working on Phase 2. Navajo Extension that we heard, we've got these fine folks back here behind us. We hope to wrap up the design in September You know, that and Indian Trail Road Phase 2 have all been under design. Phase 1, the design has been complete. We're going with the right-of-way. So as soon as we get that, we'll get that information to you and look at the capital improvement ordinance. One thing that you may want to put, and we don't have it calendared right now, but right now we just haphazardly call it Navajo Trail Extension. You might want to consider naming that at some point. Brandy can walk you through the steps because we do have to work through the county and their 911 system. Here's where I need one of the head nods. You remember that probably in May, you gave us authorization and you approved a budget to pave the right side of Chestnut Square Park. And we did it just before Family Fun Day, and you were all impressed. And some of you said, well, why haven't we done the dirt lot to the left side of it? Well, I'm pleased to announce we've got some money left over in that contract, and I've got some public works folks that are prepared to prepare that land. And if I can get a nodding of the head, we'll go ahead and prepare that left side with the money that you have already allocated, and we'll be able to check that off the list.
Yep, you got
Okay.
a head nod.
Good. The other thing I'll mention is, this is the other thing that I want to let you know about. I have heard your cries over the poor Wi-Fi coverage in this building. Okay? If we don't agree on anything, it's one thing we agree on. And Bobby and I have had some conversations. We're going to meet later this week to figure out what we're going to do to fix it. Quite frankly, in just kind of the broad sense, the Wi-Fi was put in when this building was built 5 years ago. And so some of the equipment is getting old, it's beginning to break down. We certainly have a different number of people in the building. It has a much greater demand on data. So that is on the list to get improved. So I'll keep you in the loop on that. Talked about that. I think the only other thing I'll mention, so maybe I only need one head nodding tonight, we're also working on a greenway from Chestnut Square Park to Crooked Creek Park. That's a very ambitious project. We've told you about it a little bit before. We're starting right away in September. We are using some DOT funds. The hour is late. One thing I would like to spend some time, but I'm not going to do it tonight, is in June of 2022, you might recall we looked at some surplus land that we might want to develop for some parks. You remember that? Land Design had done that additional work, and we got sidetracked on another project that didn't pan out. We also have 13,000 feet of sidewalk that we know that we have identified that we haven't sat down with y'all to figure out, do you want us to move forward on some of these things? As we continue on these 7 capital projects, they're going to start, they're going to be done, and they're going to start to wind down. We've always got to be looking forward to how do we keep up with the demands that we have. So I would like to sit down with y'all at some point, maybe at a 5:30 session, and just kind of walk through that list just to kind of get some direction on what you feel like you would want us to do. That's all I've got on update on projects. Are there any questions?
I have a question. I just want to make sure for Larry Kinley's widow's property on that Navajo Trail extension, we are going to stop it before they're correct until sometime in the future when.
Yep, we've designed it, but we're not going to be paving it all the way through.
Okay.
It's only designed so that whenever they sell or whatever, a street is already designed.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We did it to save some money.
Yeah.
Okay, September, I got 2 businesses, Red Cross, they love us so much, they opened a facility here. And you've got the Slim Chickens. So we want to welcome them to the town and hope that they're very, very successful. Depending on what the council does, we tentatively have the public hearing for the downtown plan. We understand your intentions on that. We'll honor those accordingly. Of course, we'll have recommendations on the replacement revenue that you've heard Adam talk about. We'll do a capital improvement ordinance amendment on Navajo extension based on what I've just talked about. We're approaching our 1-year anniversary of our new contract with Waste Connections. We'll give you a report on how they're doing. We'll also have for your consideration an economic development policy and review of the compensation study that you authorized a few months ago, tax report and tax settlement. Of course, all those items are subject to change. That's all I've got.
Any questions?
Thank you for staying with us so late. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Brings us to council comments.
Okay.
Thanks to everybody for coming tonight. I think that we cleared up a lot of things that were being told around town that weren't true. Positive things tonight, go tell it on the mountain. There won't be a $7 million soccer field, thanks to Mr. Hunsinger. And bad news for the tourist industry, we're not going to have a Indian Trail Grand Canyon here downtown. So anyway, I hope everybody's safe going home, and thanks for hanging with us all night. Appreciate it.
Member Barber? Yes, sir.
Okay. Just real quick, it's been a long night. Some other counties are really having a huge influx of animals in the animal shelter. We've got a beautiful Union County Animal Shelter, so please consider an adopting. My wife's got 2 cats, so y'all gonna have to do the rest of the adoptions. So, VFW is hosting the annual Ray Tompkins dinner, August 12th. They're still taking reservations if you wanna go to that. Bradley Auto Parts is having an auction this Saturday at 10 a.m. So they got tools, auto parts, and all kinds of things if you want to break out the wallet and attend that. And I want to end with prayers go out to the family of Stoney Russian and all of them. So thoughts and prayers to them. Thank you.
Councilmember Ambergy?
Well, Todd stole mine. I had a couple of things there. God bless everyone. Have a great evening.
Councilmember Buholic?
I will follow up with that. Thank you, everyone who's still with us tonight. It's been a long meeting, but we really do appreciate each and every one of y'all coming in. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some help for the water. Clean water is essential, part of life. But I really do appreciate y'all coming in and talking to us. This is how we do make things happen. So everybody have a safe drive home and good night.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Thank you. To the residents of Morris Park, I'm happy that you guys came out. We're going to work and try and get something done for you. Hopefully we get some good information really soon. So appreciate that. And the town manager, the public works director does a good job of keeping us up to date on these various projects where they are. So I think that will be good. In terms of reaching out to the county, things may be a little bit in flux right now, but I think they'll get some information pretty soon. Just want to say something that, Hayden came out tonight, made a really good presentation. The very first time, and I've probably said this many times before, but I'll say it again. The very first time I encountered anybody from the town in terms of, from a political standpoint, was David Cohn. David wasn't even in office yet. It was his first time running. And he talked about the needs for parks in Indian Trail. And that time, all 3 of my kids were born, but the last one was a baby. And to see the usage of the parks right now, how it's being used by various residents, I'm just very impressed with that. And he talked about the need for building those, and I was a full supporter of that at that time, and I still am. I know not everybody uses the parks, but the thing is, we have so many people in the town that do use them, and parks are not a revenue generator. They're a quality of life issue or a quality of life, I want to say, facility that adds to people's quality. You can go take a walk, you can go run, you could play some, ball sport or something. But these things are essential in terms of just the quality of life in Indian Trail. And it also helps our property value, makes Indian Trail a destination where you want to live. So want to just, hopefully the town and the staff and hopefully, anybody else who's sitting up here continues to sort of promote that and add that, keep on adding that quality of life to the parks. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I want to extend condolences to Stoney Rushing's family. I know he was a really big supporter of getting people off of well water within the county and getting them onto the county water. So he will surely be missed in that regard. But everybody else, have a very good evening, and thank you for coming.
Mayor Cone?
Try to be quick. Again, Stoney Russian, I would keep you in his prayers, his family in your prayers. Again, Stoney was he was a go-getter, and you know, he didn't make everybody happy, but he let you know where he was coming from, and a lot of people voted for him, so that's why he was what he was, and I appreciate his service, and want everybody to keep his family in their prayers. Real quick, I'm looking at faces in here tonight, and it's funny, I'm looking at y'all over there, and this is something Dan can also comment on. I can remember when we always had meetings this late, and I know Dan went a lot later than that with some of the meetings they used to have. I heard went to 1 o'clock in the morning back in the day, so I'm glad we don't do that much anymore, because I see some tired faces, and we appreciate everything that y'all do. Y'all are the best, and Mike, thank you for all you do, and thank you all for staying here tonight. Michael, you can also attest to some late meetings that we used to be in. One last thing that I'll say is my wife used to ask me why I used to come home at 11:30 or 12 o'clock. Well, the meeting might be over at 10:30, but I was talking to Chase Coble for an hour and a half before I came home. And if you remember Chase liked to talk, and you know, sometimes we'd jump in his truck and we'd go somewhere. He'd go show me something, you know, and we'd go do it. But anyway, those were the good old days, and I want to compliment the council tonight. Listen, we agree to disagree on some things, but you know, I said this, the last thing I'm going to say is, I do believe in all of you. I believe that all of us want to do the right thing, and they want to do the right thing for the town. We may not agree with on some things, but we're here to help, and I have all the confidence in the world that we'll do the right thing. So with that being said, I hope everybody here has a good night. God bless, and can I get a motion to close?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Unanimous.